The money was never a factor for me. I just wanted to coach. LSU broke our record by most points in a season by 1 point, but they played an extra game. I did not ever want to leave. It was just...
Man, what's up, y'all? It's Freddie Stevenson from Trials of Triumph, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting the channel. Man, it's crazy. We just did 2.9 million views on YouTube last week, but we have another amazing episode coming up this week, and it's the one y'all been blowing me up for. Like, every day I come in and there are people blowing me up in the store, on social media. When is the Jimbo Fisher episode releasing? Well, I got a surprise for you. It's releasing right now. Tap in. We talked about some great things that he opened up like he never did before. But first, I would like to take the time out to thank our presenting sponsor. Howard Buchanan Strong is a healthcare licensing and professional licensed law firm headquartered in the capital city of Tallahassee, with offices located throughout the state of Florida. Assisting those with healthcare regulation compliance, healthcare transactions, and healthcare defense. I would love to thank them for their continued support of the Trials of Triumph podcast. If you're looking for someone that you can trust, Howard Buchanan Strong is a company you should work with. And I also would like to thank our other sponsors, Stein Financial, Indie Atlantic Films, and Concord Coffee. But let me stop wasting your time. Let's get into this episode.
So, man, I appreciate you.
No, anytime, buddy. I enjoy being with you.
Man, just,
good memories.
I'm just thinking back to through all the memories and just the person that you are, the impact that you not only had on my life but other people around. It's an honor for sure. But I just want to, this platform is Trials of Triumph. What we do is we bring people along from all walks of life to tell their inspirational stories, talk about their journeys, their walks in life. So for you, we want to start from the beginning, growing up in West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, we lived way out in the country. We didn't, my parents sacrificed for us kids. They did without so we could have. We grew up, my daddy was a coal miner. My mama was a school teacher. I mean, no one in my family ever graduated high school. No, my dad didn't, and neither set of grandparents didn't. My mom's the smartest person I've ever been around. She never made one B in her whole life in anything, chemistry and physics. Now, so the education was always important. My dad always wants to have education, but we grew up a farm. My dad worked on a farm and was a coal miner. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there was something to do and what to do. But he always wanted us to make sure we went to school, and I love ball and he loved sports. He was actually a very good athlete himself, but he couldn't do it because he had to quit school and work on the family farm. Then he went to service. Then he went to work. So, he never got to do that. He always wanted to make sure me and my brother always had that opportunity. So if we weren't playing ball, we were working on the farm. Because if you have a farm, understand something. There's something to do 24 hours. Yeah. There's a fence something needs cut, a cow be out, a horse be. There's something, you know what I mean? And so we always grew up hard work out in the country, but a loving family. Parents gave us everything in the world to be successful. We never had a lot. We never wanted for anything, if that made any sense. Loved, had aunts and uncles, all grew up back in West Virginia, they called them hollahs. The whole family lived in a holla. A lot of us, so had aunts, uncles, cousins, friends all around. But, the opportunity to, back then, if you want to make money in West Virginia, you had to get an education to get out, or you ended up working in coal mines or a glass plant. And so ball was like my ticket out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Paid for school and give me a chance to go on, and something I always loved to do. My parents gave it to me, so we had to work for it, and but it wouldn't change anything in the world. It made me who I am and made me appreciate other folks in life that have to work for things. You know what I mean? I was never given anything, but you're not supposed to be given anything in this world. God put you out there to fend for yourself, and my parents, what they did, they were very loving parents and encouraging. Like, to give an example, my dad worked coal mines at night shift. And they wanted him to be the main boss, which would put him second in charge of the mines on day shift. He wouldn't do it because two things. One, he couldn't see me play ball if he didn't work the midnight turn. And two, he couldn't work the farm. Now, how much sense does that make? So he would work night shifts and leave and work all night and come in the morning, 8, 9 in the morning, jump on a tractor or go work for 8, 10 hours, maybe sleep 2 or 3 hours, go back to work every day. And in between, he'd see us play. So, they always gave us stuff, but he always gave me one thing. If you put into it, you'll get out of it. And work ethic, and do what you say you're going to do. Be an honest person. If you say you're going to be true to your word, and give a man a hard day's work. And that was it.
You talked about not really having much, coming up. And you see two things when that's the case. one side that never really has ambition. They think this is it for them. And then the other side that wants to change the narrative for their family.
Yep.
How are you able to stay focused along the way?
I think my parents, I really do, because they kept applauding me. I'll tell you a story one time. I was about 12 years old and 13 when you're starting to, you start to feel that testosterone. You got all the answers. You think you're real smart. And my dad now, see, I'm a little guy. My dad was about 6'4", about 240, 50 pounds, and I mean grown man. I'm talking about hands this big, arm. I mean, he was a worker. So I was in my smart alecky stage. I had all the answers to everything we did. And so he said, all right, you want to be a smart, and this is what you want to do? Grab me. He used to grab me right here by the back of the neck and the hair, all one, and pick you up. Man, it hurt like heck. And we had to walk up a little hill to go up to the truck. Threw me in the truck, drove me to the coal mine. We got in a big cage, went down about 1.5 miles in the coal mine. Mm-hmm. Pitch black dark. I mean, as dark as you could. I mean, you can't fathom how dark it is. Had a light, walked me down the thing. So, all right, here, go to work. Started, okay, I can do this, cutting, shoveling coal, doing different. After about a half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, the ceiling's sitting here just about a half a foot above your head, 2 feet above your head, and you're all cramped up, and it's cold, and it's dark, and and he said, and I said, I don't want to be in here, Dasco. He said, well, you got 2 choices, son. If you don't change your attitude and make school a priority, and then take buttons and balls, it's your choice. But you're going to go to school and get an education and have a chance. Because he said, the only way you're going to make money right here is working this coal mine. Otherwise, you need to have a choice. But what I'm saying is every time I got off track, I had 2 parents there that would knock me back in line. You know what I mean? And then sometimes it was hard love. Sometimes it was just a talk. It could be different ways. But I think, and then I read, and he said, you're not going to say you're not going to work. But whatever you make out of it, you make out of it. If you go all the way, you go all the way. If you don't, do the best you can. But I think my parents was what allowed me to keep on track, because they didn't allow me to get off track. When I did, I got knocked on. I literally got knocked on track. I mean, back then you'd get a hand across the mouth or a slap upside the head, and it's not like today's. Like I tell you a funny story. We was in another funny story. I was about 9 years old. Went to the old Sears and Roebuck store. That's the old. You only know if they were around when you were around.
Yeah.
So we went in. Dad had to get something. You could buy different things. They always had a little toy department. They had a little toy gun. I always loved to be outdoors, hunt, and do those things. Mm-hmm. I wanted this gun, and my dad said, "No, we ain't got time. I got to finish this job. Come on, we're going back to get in the truck." I'm being being a little smart alecky, being a brat. I want it. And he just said, "No, come on." And so he grabbed me by the arm. And he just, whipped my butt. His hand. And some lady grabbed and said, "Don't you hit that boy. That's child abuse. I'm going to call the cops." He said, "Well, you better start calling, lady." And with the next swap, he hit me on the butt again. He said, "Now go, boy, get in the truck." So what I'm saying, it was for the right reason. It was tough love. You know what I mean? Yeah. But they always were there. And then whenever I needed support, I knew I had it. No matter how much they got on you, they were always there to back you too. And I think that's a little bit, and if you think how I tried to coach a little bit, honesty, hard, tough. But if something was needed, you always were there for the kids to try to take care of. But I think they kept me straight for what happened.
I was looking up some of your stats online, man, and most people that played at a high level, you can't get them to shut up about it. I did not know that you were all-state in high school, in the Hall of Fame, in college. This is crazy. You never said anything to it.
Well, that's, I love ball, and it wasn't about me. It was about getting you guys. I was all-state in 3 sports in high school, football, basketball, and baseball. Was All-American 3 years in college. Was a National Player of the Year. Set a national record. At that time, we were NAI, like Division II. Then I went to Division III level because Terry, Bobby's son, was my coach. He got me to go there, and I set a national record for touchdown passes in a season back 1987. I threw 34. Back then, you didn't throw the ball like you do today, and but we threw it around, and I had a good career. Had good coaches, had a good system, and see, I grew up. That's why I love Florida. I grew up in the Florida State offensive system. Terry ran exactly what Bobby ran, so we had good stuff to do. We had good players, and Terry was a heck of a coach. And but I was blessed. Had a good ability, And
that's when there was a baller. That's what they blessed. They humble about it. But coach was nice, man. I looked online. I saw all the stats. That's crazy.
See, really, baseball was my sport. I loved because of my size. I played quarterback. Everyone said I couldn't do it, and I originally went to Clemson and played baseball. Because I was going. Well, the Cubs were going. There was a couple teams. Royals, Cubs, about 4 or 5 of them. They came to talk to us. And said, you play all the sports, you need some work. We're going to draft you somewhere like 12th round to the 18th round. Somewhere in that range if you want to play pro baseball. And so my mom, going back to my dad, education. Well, What about education? Well, this, and how much money does that pay? You know, we usually, because you use those things are kind of slotted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they said, well, that's good money, but that's not enough. That ain't going to pay for his education. Mom said, I want him to go to college. So instead of drafting me, what they did, a bunch of those scouts went south and started telling all the coaches in the South, because in West Virginia, it's a small area, and we were up north, and then the Southern coaches come up and start recruiting me in baseball. That's funny.
How did you get your start in coaching?
You know, people always ask me, did you always want to coach? Here's what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be involved with sports and ball. And I was fortunate in that I played as long as I could. You know, I signed a Canadian scholar contract to go to Canadian League, and I didn't sign it. I was up there in Canada. They don't draft you; they claim you. So I was claimed by a team, and they were trying to sign me, and I didn't sign with them, and because they were trying to lowball me because I was from a small school. So then that's when arena football had just started up, and they called me to go play, and I said, I'm not going to play arena. I'm going to go sign in Canada. They said, well, listen, you come play for us, and if you play, you know, we'll let you out if you go sign. And so we did that, and I ended up getting hurt, whatever, make a long story short. But when I grew up, I always wanted to be in ball, and that's how far I went in ball. And I said, the only way to be still part of ball was the coach. And Terry always told me, he said, when you're done playing, because he and I had a tremendous relationship. He's the head coach, called the plays, and I was a quarterback. And he took me under his wing, and I spent tons of time in there in the film room. And I knew what everybody on the field did. See, here's the old adage, too. He used to ride, Coach Bowden used to ride in the game. He didn't ride on the team bus. He rode in a state trooper car in front of the team bus. You know what I mean? Well, Terry did the same thing. When I was a player, I wasn't allowed to ride the team bus. Terry would make me ride in the state trooper car with him, and we would go over the game plan over and over and over to the game. And I had to know what I did and everybody on the field did. And so I was like a coach, in other words. But he put that in me, Terry did. And he always said, when you're done, he said, you'll make a heck of a coach. He said, when you're done playing, if you want to coach, just tell me and you can start coaching and GAing. And when I immediately did, there wasn't even a thought. And then I was blessed that was around the Bowden family. That's Bobby's kids. You know what I mean? And Terry was very successful. So I got with the right family, and I learned to do it the right way. Because what Terry learned from his dad, well, then I learned from Terry, so it was like learning from Bobby Bowden.
How tough is it when you get your start in coaching, you're a GA, financially not really able to take care of your family? How tough is it to stick with it?
Extremely. I had a lot of buddies that got in too, and they were GAs, and, well, you know, we don't have any money. I said, the money never mattered to me. Here's a funny thing about coaching. I look at it, I've never had a job. If you ever do something you truly love, you never looked at it as work. And I was so blessed. The money was never a factor for me. I just wanted to coach and coach players and win and develop players and do all. But I never looked at it and money to me was never, ever a factor. I remember this. I GA'd, started quarterback. And actually, I was like an undergraduate because when I went to go to the arena ball, I had another semester of school to finish. So I came back and I did that and he let me coach. He coached the line. Jeff Bowden he coached the receivers. Well, I coached the quarterbacks, and I was still a student assistant. And so I coached them, and made just a little bit of money. And I had a little bit of money from when I played in arena ball and all that, from my settlements, because I got hurt. And I never thought of the money. I really never did. And I was the OC in 1991 at Sanford. We built it up. We went to the national semifinals. Then next year went to the quarterfinals, and I was making $15,000 a year as the OC. Some other guys on the staff had families. I didn't have a family, so Terry paid them more, even though I was the OC and helped call the plays and run it. But I never, it's funny, I never thought anything about it. Because I just wanted to coach. I never got in coaching if I'd have been coaching, I've been fortunate to make a lot of money in it. But if I was right now making $80,000 a year being a high school coach, I would still be doing it. I never did it for the money. But it was hard. You live with somebody, you live with two people, and you scrounge your money together to barely pay rent. I can remember then. I barely was able to pay rent. And I was coaching. All my buddies, they got out and went to go get high school coaching jobs and teaching jobs, and it never occurred. I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to coach.
You talk about working your way up in the coaching industry. When did you get your big break?
Well, I was fortunate, again, being with Terry. We were at Salem. We were at Salem, that's where we started at. I was playing, and he went to Sanford in Birmingham. And we went to the national semifinals and then went to the quarterfinal. We had a really good team. And that was, to me, as a 1AA and being an OC, I was 25 years old. I was the OC. And then the Auburn job came open, and Terry gets the Auburn job and for the 1993 season, and he takes me as the quarterback coach. And I was, a 27-year-old guy that got thrown into not just Division I, but the SEC.
Yeah.
And being around Terry gave me a huge break, not only learning what to do, but he was one of the bright young and one National Coach of the Year. We went there, Auburn, and won 20 games in a row. We never lost for almost 2 years. And that's what got me my break in Division I football, was being with the Bowdens and being with Terry, and then we had success right off the bat at Auburn.
We would like to thank Howell, Buchanan, Strong for sponsoring today's episode of Trials of Triumph. They are a healthcare licensing and professional licensed law firm headquartered in the capital city of Tallahassee, with offices located throughout the state, assisting those with healthcare regulation compliance, healthcare transactions, and other healthcare defense. If you're facing legal problems, you're going to need a strategic defense. Howell, Buchanan, Strong is Florida's trusted law firm to help you with your licensing issues.
Okay. When we were at Florida State, you always would talk about those LSU teams, those historic LSU teams that you were on. I want to know, like, the process that you guys would go through, because I remember you bringing in Michael Clayton one day, and then I remember Jamarcus Russell coming in one day and watching practice. Kind of walk us through what those practices were like at LSU.
Man, they were brutal. I mean, LSU, when we went there, think about this. They only had 3 winning seasons in the 90s. Everybody thinks of them now winning like crazy. They only had 3 winning seasons in the whole decade of the 90s. And the 2 years before we got there, they were 3-8, 2-9. And we went in, we were able to go 8-4, and kind of changed the mentality. I mean, our practice. I mean, you remember how our practices were?
Yeah.
That's exactly how those practices were. Our practices were the hardest part of the game. The games were the easy part. Even though you played great opponents, the competition and how we pushed and challenged, and what we always tried to build. I always believe this: the one thing that was hardest to simulate, that most people never can simulate, is pressure. Because you say, well, I practice easy when I get in the game. I always say this. Remember this statement I always make. When pressure comes, your habits are coming straight to the surface. What you did on a daily. And what your habits are is what you do on a daily basis. So that's your practice habits. And remember, our practices were like, I tried to get you in a mindset of, in practice, to put as much pressure or even more pressure on you as you had in the game. So when the game came, it was natural when you reacted and you played. Those teams right there were, man, that was the epitome. Those teams started. That's where we did it before, but those teams were exactly like, they were physical, they were tough. Michael Clayton, Andrew Whitworth, Spears. We had the line. I mean, Marcus Spears was on that. There was Rohan Davey, Tofield, Dom. If you go down the list, Josh. I mean, there were so many great players, but one thing they had in common that I always said with our Florida State, we're very similar to our. I'm gonna tell you what, they wanted to win and didn't mind working to win. Their dreams and what their habits were is how they practiced, and we included that, and we were physical and we were almost brutal in practice, huh?
Yeah.
And they were too, and that's where I truly believed in that. And our Auburn teams were like that. Our Auburn teams that won 20 in a row, and Willie Anderson and Steve Davis and Damien Craig was there. I mean, all these. I mean, we had Stan White, Pat Nix, and Bo Nix's daddy, Pat Nix. He played for me there.
Hey,
he was there for me there, and we had a guy named Gary Walker on defense. And I mean, there was Frank Sanders and James Boston. I mean, there were so many great players there. I mean, it was crazy, and it was the same. Those teams were physical, and I knew if we were going to win national championships, we had to be like that. And those teams at LSU were their practices, man. You had just like our guys. There'd be 8 guys drafted on one side, 8 guys drafted on the other. They go at it every day.
Yeah.
Pride took over. But the thing both teams did that I always said was great, they respected. In other words, you really knocked the heck out of each other, but you didn't try to hurt each other. There was a respect there and learn how to practice. But those teams at LSU, man, they were physical. And turning that whole tide of getting LSU to win. In 2000, we won 8 games. 2001, we lost a couple games, and we were struggling on defense. And Nick always wanted to play balanced. He never wanted you to be wide open on offense because he wanted to help the defense. In other words, don't put him on the field too long, control the clock. Well, he went to us that year, and we were struggling on defense. He said, you know what? We lost a couple games. He said, go score as many as you can. The last 8 games, we averaged about 40-some points a game. And we snuck up and played Tennessee, who had one loss and was going to play the great Miami team, and Tennessee was loaded. They had beaten us earlier in the year, had one loss. They were playing for the National Championship if they won the SEC. We upset them in that championship game. Rohan got hurt, and we played with a backup quarterback and a tailback, and then we won the Sugar Bowl that year and won the SEC, and that started LSU's run. Then 2 years later, won the National Championship. But the practice habits and those kids' attitudes was what changed it, and that was no different at Florida State. I always said this. Our guys, you want to play on the field, okay. You want to go to the parking lot? That ain't no problem either. You know, I mean, they wanted to compete and play, but they practiced. Our teams were unified, I always thought. Even though we were physical, I thought we were unified and practiced our tails off just like those teams did.
You mentioned Nick Saban. What was it like being on the staff with him at LSU?
He was a defensive guy and took care of the defense, and he wanted you to play a certain way on offense. He and I had a great relationship, and I have great respect for him. Learned a lot of football from him, learned a lot of organizational things. And I was, you had the Bowdens, then I had Nick. I mean, that was blessed at an early age to learn how to do. And there were two different people entirely. And maybe two is the most. You got the all-time winningest coach here, and they took a couple. We still should be. You know what I mean? And Bobby Bowden and Nick has won the most championships, and they did it two different ways. Yeah. So you knew there was, as I always say, there's two different ways to skin a cat. You know what I mean? You could do things a different way, but I kind of took the best of. I thought of both. That's what I always. But I always had to make it my own. I always say this as a coach too. What made both of them unique and successful? They were themselves. They weren't fake, and that's Bobby did it one way, Nick did it another. And I always thought I tried to be. I always said. Kids and people won't follow people who are fake or try to be somebody else because it eventually bites you. You know what I mean? And I think being with those two guys at an early age, I think really helped me out. And I think I hopefully took things from both guys.
You talked a lot about Jamarcus Russell during that time as well. I would love to hear about your process with him, being able to work with him at LSU.
See, he had a reputation and in pro ball that didn't, suppose he was a bust. But I'm going to tell you what, those habits, he didn't have those habits at LSU. That guy came into meetings was prepared. We give him 2, 3, 4 play checks. I mean, things, a run, pass, run, check, all the stuff. You know how we did stuff like pro ball. And he did it, and he could make all. And you're never going to find a guy who was more physically gifted than that guy. I mean, you ever see somebody throw a football 100 yards? He literally threw a football 100 yards. And could run. He was a 4'7" guy, 4'8" guy. Was athletic, big, could make, but had touch. He was a great basketball player when he was like a top 10, 15 and under basketball player in the country. Could shoot, so he had great hands, had touch on the ball, could throw it. And for me, he was easy to coach, tough, and we won great games with him before. And he learned from. Matt Mock was a great example for it. We won a national championship with him. He made himself a player. Rohan Davey was a very gifted guy from Florida. He was from Miami that played for me that was all SEC. In 01, we won it. But those guys were all, they kind of just, Josh Booty, then Rohan, then Matt Mock, then Marcus Randall, then Jamarcus and Matt Flynn. But they all learned off each other. But gifted-wise, Jamarcus by far was the most gifted guy I've ever walked on the field with as far as physical traits. To throw a foot. And we had other great quarterbacks who were just as good. And he was the first pick of the draft, but Jamarcus could do things. And for me, he was a smart guy, a good guy, did everything right. And I never had problems with Jamarcus. But he could just do, it was just then when you saw him, he was so physically imposing.
Yeah, he was a big dude. Man.
Huh? He looked like a D-end.
Yeah, for real. I want to talk about your time when you made the transition to Florida State, the time under Coach Bowden. Walk us through that process and being able to learn from Coach Bowden before you get the opportunity.
I've been around Bobby because I used to come down and watch practices. I used to come stay at his house and watch practices back in the day when I was at Sanford, believe that or not. He'd let me come when Terry come down. They'd take me. They'd go to bowl games. They would give me a room, and I used to go sit in the back when I was a young OC at Sanford. He'd be in game plan with his staff. I used to be with guys sitting, and they said, "Who's that?" Well, that's one of Terry's coaches. They treat me just like their son and family. I'd listen to him. I used to sit in a couple games, I'd sit in the press box and listen to him call games. Just had a headset with no mouthpiece and listen to him. That's when he called plays like I did as a head coach. And just listen to him set things up, structure things. And I was very blessed to have that at a young age. And then when I left LSU to go as the OC, I went from the OC as LSU to OC at Florida State. People said, well, that's a lateral move. And it wasn't no more money, it wasn't anything else. But it was, I wanted to be under Coach Bowden before I became a head coach. And at that time, I actually had 3 other head coaching offers that I turned down. My object, I always said, I didn't want to be the youngest head coach, I wanted to be the oldest. Now, there were some things I wanted to be under Coach specifically. because I wanted to really make sure I was ready to be a head coach. And there's some things I wanted to learn under him. So I came as an OC, and it was one of the best things I ever did. And just the talks we had, not just the X and O talks. He mentored me very like his own son. We would go in his office, have talks about things, the history of things, why things were done, how he would do things. And people always said this, when he left, he said, well, you and him, you took over for him, you pushed him out. That wasn't true. He said, you guys we were extremely close. And we talked a lot after that. A ton after that. Weekly, monthly, whenever you need something, buddy, give me a call. And I would call, and I'd still talk to Terry, Jeff, Tommy. And I'm very still like one of the family. But what he did was people thought there was a rift between us. That was not true, because he told me back in the 80s, he said, when I get out of coaching, whoever the next head coach is, I'm not going to be around him. I said, Coach, why would you do that? Why would he? He said, because it's not fair. A guy did that to me earlier, and it hurt me. He said, because that guy can never take over the program if I'm still hanging around. And you watch a lot of coaches up to this day, they still hang around the old. And for the coach that's there, he can never take over that program.
It's tough.
Because people still look at him. Well, you didn't do it like him. You didn't do the Bobby. See, people always said, well, how did you have success? I was very fortunate that one of the coaches that had success following a legend. That I had a lot. We won 80% of our games and won a national championship. People said, why? Let me tell you the biggest reason. Because Coach Bowden wasn't around. He taught me, but then he let me go do my thing without looking over my shoulder, and people going to him saying, well, Bobby, would you have done it that way? Would this have happened? He allowed me to coach, and I think that's a big part of these programs that great historical head coaches, which nobody was more historical than Coach Bowden, them to step away sometimes is hard. And I know they're older and they want to be ahead in the hell. I think it's really detrimental to the present coach at hand. You know what I'm saying? And for me to get under him and learn, and I always remember that too. And him, I would call him on the phone. Don't get me wrong. We would go have talks. No one just knew about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he allowed me to ask him questions, bounce things off of him. But he allowed me to be me and put my own stamp on the program the way I wanted to do it, which was very similar to him, but just a little bit different. Some things I picked up from Nick, a lot of things from Bobby, and then what I believed in my own self. And that's truly the reason I think the transition was so successful, because I was able to be me, but Coach Bowden allowed that. That's the kind of human being he was. People don't understand. He's one of the, not only the best coaches walk the sideline, he's one of the best people that ever walked the sideline. And I think that's what really separates him from other people, in my opinion.
You talked about, putting your stamp on the program while you were there. When you took over as head coach, and you have to go out in a state that's rich with talent, what boxes does a recruit have to check to get recruited by you during that time?
Well, we tried to set a standard. I always said this. First, does he fit our program? Everybody says, you got to look at high character kids. Okay, but the first thing, till you meet somebody, you don't know what kind of human being he is. What athletic standard can we win the ACC with him? Can we win the national championship with him? Can he be a top 3 round draft pick? Does he have the capability of being a top 3, 4 round draft pick? You know what I mean? Those are standards you set. Now, sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. And some guys fool you and step up, and some guys slide down. But those were standards that and then we had size that certain positions, certain things, we wanted size. I always said this, football is not a little man's game, but little men can play it. Coach Bowden always had a saying for that. You know what it was called? If a duck can pull a truck, hitch him to it. Now, that sounds crazy, but it's something always rang in my head. And so we had some of the best small players I've ever been around in college football history, from Lamarcus Joyner, Greg Reed, Devontae Freeman wasn't a big guy. He was a short guy. We had some of the amazing little guys that were phenomenal. I always remember that. And it's like, there was a physical standard. There was a certain standard we looked at physically. And then, does he love ball? Is he a high character individual? I always said this is what I always thought separated players too. One is your willingness to work, toughness, although everybody knows that. But how does he learn? And how does he process the game? And you only get those guys if you can get them in camp or be around them for a while. Can he learn? And them guys can learn, but then all of a sudden they get on the field, it doesn't make any sense to them. Looks like a foreign language. You know what I'm saying? And how do they process that? And I think that's the thing that we tried to gauge as much as anything is your intelligence levels and your psychological disposition. Remember, we used to do those tests. We used to give psychological tests, not to because two things. We wanted to see how you thought, and then how we had to coach. Because each player, you can't. I always say that you can't coach them like a herd of cattle. Mm-hmm. Every person's different. Yep. You have your standards, but we used to have a little bit of a different touch on each guy. And we tried to get those qualities. Once we figured out once they physically had the qualities, then who had the character, who had the mental disposition, who had the intelligence, who could process, all those types of things, and tried to just, it's an educated guess. And then I always tried to think that molding those guys within the concept of how you do things on a daily basis, from your entrance to how, way you just approach life every day, and that's kind of how we did it.
When I came in 2013, we always heard the stories about the 2012 team and how the guys believed that would be the team to win the championship. Unfortunately, you didn't do it, but when did you know with the 2013 team that team had a real shot?
We truly believe the 12 team did, and I think, and the reason we won in 13 is because of 12. And I think some of that leadership we have, some of those older guys stayed, and I mean they've had your thumb on you. I thought we had some tremendous leaders on that football team on both sides of the ball, and it was because of we won the Orange Bowl that year, won the ACC, and I'll tell you another. I always believe this: if we had one other guy on that team, I believe we would have won it too. And I had to dismiss him before the year, and it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And I didn't want to, and he got a raw situation, but we'll talk about that later. But once that first game, you never know how, Jameis is a young quarterback. He's up there at Pitt and plays well, and we play well as a team. I knew we had a good team. Mm-hmm. Just didn't know how well the quarterback would process early, how we would gel, and how, our line, we had experience there, so I thought we could lean on it. But then, in KB, that's the year KB kind of exploded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rashad was Rashad. Rashad was always, I would say this, the most underrated. As great a player, leading receiver in ACC history, leading receiver in Florida State history, touchdowns, yards, all those things. But he was always under the radar because he was so quiet. But big players and big games, I don't know if anybody ever made more big plays than Rashad Green from his freshman year to his senior year. And that says a lot of a lot of great players. But KB emerging really because he become unguardable. Mm-hmm. And the way people had to play on defense, if we got him one-on-one, we had that KB rule. You're one-on-one, get that sucker out there. It don't take brain surgery, you know what I mean? And then then Rashad on those moments, and then Freeman running, and Carlos and Wilder, and just how that whole team in the offense, and then the defense, Telvin and Lemon Joyner. I always tell people,
Joyner dog,
there's dogs and there's Joyner. You know what I'm saying? I always said that, man. That people don't understand the impact. I don't know if that guy ever got tired. And if you wanted, if you said we practiced 3 hours and said we're starting over, he'd walk up and give you a kiss, thank you, coach, and go for. He had an impact that was second to none. I always said that, and Jalen coming in making the impact he did as a freshman, Telvin at linebacker, but then you had Timmy up front. Yeah. Timmy set the standard up front too.
I was telling them off the behind the scenes. It was when I came in as a linebacker. It was spring, and everybody kept having a whole bunch of MAs. And Tim just got mad one day. He's like, man, we got another MA out here. I'm knocking you out.
And legitimate, he would now.
Literally. We didn't mess up the rest of the practice, offense or defense. It was a smooth, crisp practice.
I tell you what, now he had an impact. Then he had Eddie and Mario and Christian Jones up front and played there. And Terrence Smith was there. You forget about him too. How good he played. And Telvin was just a dog. Telvin was an absolute dog too now. But Timmy had an impact when Timmy spoke, people listened. Sure. And when Joyner's the other one that would beat your tail.
Joyner fearless, man.
He was, oh my God. We had those leaders. And Jameis and Freeman became that on offense. Stork was a good leader. Rashad was quietly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Jameis, because they always, but we had that. But those guys on defense too. I knew we had good. I just didn't know how quick we could get jail. And then all of a sudden, it's like bang, bang, bang. Then I knew about, our practice habits. And then about the middle of the year, I said, I really felt it. And I felt really good. I said, we got to go up to Clemson, which we knew was always a tough place to play. And if you remember, they were actually ranked ahead of us. Mm-hmm. We were like 5, they were 3.
Yeah, that was the year they were supposed to win it all.
And we beat them 51-4. They had Sam, they had everybody. Beat them 51-14 and called the dogs off at the end of the third quarter. It could have been 70. You know what I mean? And they've never been beaten like that ever before. And that team ended up being the top 5 team and won the Orange Bowl that year against Ohio State. And when you walked off that field that day and that game was going on, and I'm going, this group's different, man. It wasn't. And it never winning. I tell you what, after we started winning, even before that, though, I watched us, because I worried, we're winning, we were dominating people, even before we went to the Clemson game. But we come back on Monday, we'd act like we had just lost. And what I'm from a point, not confidence-wise, but work ethic-wise. You know what I mean? With something to prove. I knew then, me, myself, I sat back and, and I'd have them things. And, of course, how practice would be. And I'd yell at them guys on defense, Telvin, get off the field. And he'd look at me and smile, run off the field, and I'd wink at him, knowing it. He knew, but I had to do it because they do things in practice. But I knew then there was something special. Just, was we going to stay healthy? And it was that lucky ball when it had to bounce, was it going to bounce right? But here's the thing. It never had to bounce right all year. I mean, people got mad at me. Said, time we sit down at halftime, game was over.
Yeah,
I mean, Jameis never saw the field. He won Heisman, threw 40-some touchdowns, never walked on the field like 4 or 5 times the second half. He could have thrown 60. I mean, it was just one of those teams. And what I always say is special about that team, though, when it did face adversity in the national championship. That's the biggest comeback in national championship history. We were down 21-3. To come back and win it. And then how we faced it, when it did face adversity, never blinked. And then our famous, and then remember how 2 minute used to be on Thursday. Man, 2 minute was, those were wars on Thursday. Everybody else didn't have pads on. We had pads on going at 2 minute. I knew it would pay off. And you remember that year, we'd go 2 minutes for the half and all that. Never had to go 2 minutes in the game, but it paid off for us for a championship because of how I think our practice habits and our 2 minute habits, how we had that down.
I don't know if you remember these moments, but I remember coming in that spring and just, kind of learning, soaking things up as the young buck. There was a moment that spring where we're scrimmaging in the stadium, and I think it was like I was supposed to go in, the twos were supposed to go in, and you kept the ones in. Wilder ran like 38 plays straight on the goal line, and we found out later he had broken ribs. 38 plays, and just the intensity of that practice. I was like, yo, this team could be something. But then there was another moment.
You're right.
In fall camp. It was our second practice, the night practice. A big brawl broke out. But I think after that brawl, that was the best practice I've ever seen in my time at Florida State. I don't know if you remember those moments.
I remember on the goal line because we were down the goal line and we were running ball and both sides we always did goal line at the end of practice. It was one of them them hot days too. I mean, it was one of them. Yeah. It was humid. It was more humid than it was hot. It was 100 degrees, and we're going to goal line. And I said, we're not tough enough. And they always said, we're tough there. And then both sides were mouthing. I said, well, I'll just find out how tough you are. Let's just see if you're tough enough. And we lined up for 38 plays. And Wilder ran it all but 2 and broke two ribs on the second play. And if you remember, guys were trying to sub in, and guys wouldn't let people sub in. They were throwing people out. They wouldn't let people walk on the field. At first, I said, no, ones go again. Then they got mad at each other and started going at it. And it was and what was funny, though, the more physical it got and the harder they hit each other, the more they liked it. And they weren't hurting it. I mean, they tried to on the play. All right, I'm gonna light you up. Then they pick each other up and line up again. I knew that that's a great point. I knew then there was something in this team if we could get the right breaks. There was no doubt. And then in the fall camp, I remember that fight. I mean, and when our guys fought, now you wasn't breaking them up now. No. There was some outright dogs out there now. But they could. But I always said this: they could transition that and turn around and go play football and not lose their mind.
Yep.
It's like some people when they got to that point, players, well, he's done. You could get him mad and he was done. Yeah. That team, the madder it got, the better it played. You remember that?
Yeah, fast. That was, man, I'm talking, I haven't seen a practice ever as good as after that brawl, man. That was a crisp practice. And on both sides, like, even if one side beat the other one, like you would say, it wasn't bad ball because somebody messed up. It was like, all right, great defense, better offense type of situation.
Stein Financial is an independent fee-only fiduciary investment advisory firm building tailored wealth management and asset management services for families, businesses, individuals, and trusts. As a fiduciary, Stein Financial is obligated to act in your interests, always sitting at your side of the table. No selling financial products, no commissions, just their expertise working as a personal CFO to help you reach your personal financial goals. They do better as you do better, just as it should be. Bennett Stein, firm founder and owner, is a CPA and certified financial planner, and he utilizes his background in portfolio management, business valuation, and tax in order to offer services to help you reach your financial goals. Plus, he's a lifelong Seminole fan and FSU grad, and he's always willing to talk about all things FSU. That's Stein Financial, Give them a call today at 850-737-4752.
I tell you that teams did. I always said this about ball. There's teams that win games because the other team is bad or it just continually makes mistakes, and which is part of you take advantage of them. But eventually, I remember I always said this, don't feel too good about yourself. Listen, you when somebody else makes a mistake and you take advantage of it, that's your job. Don't feel bad about that. I mean, you got to know when to do that. But don't get so full of yourself and think you're better than you are because you're only making plays when that guy messes up. You got to learn to make plays. The offense got to learn to score when the defense does it perfect, and the defense has got to learn to make stops when the offense does it right. Because that's I always said, like you said, good ball. You know what I'm saying? And that was what that team prided itself on. And remember, we used to do a cut up all right, this was a good play because you both did it right. This guy made a great play. Tip your hat and I'll go play. This is a good play because we made a mistake. We can't beat ourselves, but we have to learn to raise our game. If that team's making plays, what we always say, go higher. Go make the play when he's doing it right. And that team, I don't know if I've ever been around a team that everything I said, it did. And liked doing. I mean, that team truly not only liked to win, it liked to practice. It liked to lift weights. It liked to go run in the middle of the heat and run 26 110s.
Yeah.
You remember that? I mean, that team liked to work. It really did. And you couldn't be on that team if you didn't work. They ran that. Coaches didn't have to sort those guys out. The players sorted those. You couldn't be around those guys. Joyner and Telvin and Freeman and Jameis and Jernigan and Eddie Goldman and Christian Jones and Darby and P.J. Williams and Jalen was like, I mean, Nick O'Leary, he didn't say, but man, and KB and Rashad and those linemen, Jose and Stork and Bobby, and I mean, all those guys, you couldn't be around them if you didn't work. They didn't want you around them.
Yeah.
And I used to tell people that, and they said, "Oh, you're exaggerating." I said, "Guys, I'm not."
I've seen it. It's real.
You could. They would have, Coach. I know. I say, and I sometimes those guys, this guy ain't working. Coach, don't worry about it. I got it. I mean, sometimes I would go. Sometimes I would do it because I was easier on them than they were. Some of those guys, and that's hard to believe because I remember because Wilder got mad at me one time. I remember he was playing, and he went over on the sideline, and there was two guys coming at him, and he ran out of bounds. And Wilder, there was nobody built like Wilder was and I don't know if anybody wanted to mess with Wilder either. Wilder now was a grown man, and I said, Wilder, what you got, plastic muscles? You don't want to use them muscles? He said, all right. And everybody else, he started running over everybody every day after that. It was like a train. But those guys responded to those things. They liked it, and that was a very unique group of individuals that liked everything about ball.
You talked about coaching Jamarcus at LSU. What was it like being around Jameis?
Jameis was I don't know if I've ever been around anybody who prepared like Jameis at a young age. Jameis never lost confidence, and it wasn't arrogance. It was pure confidence in himself. Even if he made a mistake, he knew he could do something about it and knew how to keep it in perspective. But I always tell this about James. People say, well, he was gifted. He could do this. Oh, this is a true story. This is how he did every day. His preparation, say if we had Monday we did a lot of work. We were in shorts and shell. Tuesday and Wednesday were grind days. And like Tuesday was first down, second down days, play action, goal line, short yardage days. Third down was red zone, tight zone, third down, all that type, 2 minute, that type stuff. Say, for instance, after Tuesday practice, we'd have one of those long practices. He'd go eat lunch or go eat dinner, and we'd be up there, our staff, when we'd eat and start watching the film and start preparing for third down the next day and red zone and all that stuff. And Jameis would go watch his practice film. Then he would start on his own till 10, 11 at night. Downstairs, he'd be downstairs in the same room, never leave the building, and still preparing to 10, 11 at night for third down the next day. And I'd get a knock, and he'd know I'd let the staff go at 10 most of the time on those nights. And I'd stay a little bit extra, had some stuff to do, and I'd always get a knock on the door. Coach, today, these 4 things I did wrong. On this play, I should have did this, did you see anything else? That'd be at 10 o'clock that night. I'd say no, or whatever. If I saw something, I didn't see something. No, I still think you're okay there if you do this. He'd say, okay, tomorrow we got 3rd and 3. I like these 4 things. 3rd and 6, I like these. 3rd and 9, I like these things. Red zone, I like this. Tight zone, I like this. Is there anything? I'm just saying some things I like going in to help you on your game plan. His preparation, and the relationship he and I had to be able to communicate like that. And I would go to him and say, okay, I like these 3 things you got. I don't like this one. I see, because I always believe this. As a play caller, I may like it, but if you didn't like it, as a play caller, as a quarterback, it's hard for you to believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But then if there's things I said, Jameis, he just said, I said, Jameis, but look at this. If we do this, can you give me these 2 plays? Here, yes. I'll give you these. I'll call these for you. I like those 2. I don't like this one. I like these 2. Yeah, I need this. We would work like that all the time. In the first plays of the game, are you comfortable with these? Do you like these? And I even said to Rashad, Rashad and things you like. Freeman, you like to stretch better. You like to power. You like to counter. Tried to run things if you could that fit those things. But Jameis's preparation, his mindset, his overall confidence, and the confidence he exuded to the guys around him.
Yeah, fast.
I always say this about Jameis. People always say this about Jameis. Tell me something about Jameis. I said, he knew every janitor in the building. He knew every lady that worked in the building. He knew everybody that was in the making lunch and dinner. I said, he knew every walk-on the team. He knew every guy was a star. If it was a stars or a walk-on or the janitor of the building or a worker in the building or a secretary, he knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And he treated everybody the same. He never put himself above things. And one of the things I always said, Jameis got himself in trouble. He never saw himself as a superstar. As crazy as that sounds. He knew he was good, but he just liked being a guy, like one of the guys. And tell me if I'm wrong, Freddie, on that.
After he won the Heisman, I remember guys walking up, and he was going around the walk-ons and like, you guys, like, you were part of this. Hold the trophy, take pictures, do whatever you need to do. That was Jameis.
He was as genuine as the day is long. He's a true people person, and I was blessed to have ever been part. We had some great ones. Ponder was great. EJ was great. He was great. Francois was great. Sean McGuire won some big games for us during that time.
Sean was a dog, man. You talk about just relentless, man. I had a lot of respect for Sean, man.
How he played and how tough he was, and the games he stepped in that year when Jameis remember the Clemson game, played the big games, threw for 300 yards that game, and played. And remember Jameis the night before helping him prepare. You know what I'm saying? That team, what I'm saying is, we were a true team.
Yeah.
There wasn't separate agendas on that group of guys, in my opinion. And I think, and this, I was on you guys like crazy. I pushed, challenged, yelled, cussed, hollered, but I always tried to put my arm around you when I walked off to tell you why. And then it's going to pay off when we get in these situations, and it did for all those years, and we were blessed. But I always appreciate you guys for allowing us to push you like. A lot of guys don't want to be pushed like that.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't want to be coached like that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But that was a Florida State standard. You go back to the Mickey Andrew days. Them guys tell you the old stories about Mickey now. Yeah, he's one of the greatest coaches in college. Not only Coach Bowden on offense and that whole thing, but Mickey on defense, one of the legends in the game to ever do things, and how he coached them. Man, he made me look soft some days. You know what I mean?
I hear the story.
But I always never wanted us to go into a game. I always believed toughness, the effort, the discipline, and the pride. But you just because you're tough don't mean you can't be skilled, and it don't mean you can't be intelligent. And I think those teams, people don't realize this. If you go back and look in the last 90 years of football, do you know that's the most dominant team in NCAA history? Point differential. See, LSU broke our record by most points in a season by 1 point, but they played an extra game.
And not only that, so like you mentioned earlier,
we called the dogs off at halftime. Yeah. We weren't trying to do it. We didn't know. That's just what we played. But you remember, we led the country in defense that year in scoring. Our point differential was 39 points a game. The largest top 5 deficit, the 51-14 game. Largest top 25 deficit, the Maryland 62-0 game. They were top 25, beat them 62-0. Beat Clemson 51-14, who was the 2 top 5 teams who finished in the top 5. I mean, those teams, remember the NC State game, we were up 35-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean, I'm just saying how dominant that team wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Whoever we played, if you look it up, it doesn't get the respect. Every guy on that team played in the NFL. It started and played. That's secondary. All of them played 8 or more years. Terrence Brooks, I mean, how good a player he was. I mean, PJ and Darby and Jalen and LaMarcus and Terrence and Telvin and Eddie and I mean the whole crew up from Timmy. I mean, all of them. I mean, on the offensive line, everybody played forever. And that team does not get the respect and had the best kicker.
Yeah.
And our punter would have been one of the tops in the country. He just didn't punt enough. He didn't qualify enough. He didn't have enough punts.
Yeah.
I mean, that team does not get the respect. And I'll put that team up with any team in the college football ever. I'll put that team up with anybody.
When you take a look at the 2014 team, do you feel like that team had lost its edge?
I don't think it lost its edge. I think a lot of the things that come with winning got to it. But I'm going to tell you that for that team to go undefeated, and that team could hit a switch like no team to play.
Yeah, I got the
to
question.
struggle, and then say, you know what, we got to score 3 drives in a row. Boom, 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 and could turn it on. Jameis used to get bored. He threw his picks that year. I think you have a freshman year. I always say this: when you have a freshman year, all right, when you're a young player and you just blow up numbers, you think, well, the next year I got to do better. Well, not necessarily. You got to make the right plays, whatever's in front of you. You can play better ball and have less yards or touchdowns. And I think Jameis pressed that a little bit and used to throw picks, but then he'd say, I'd say, Jameis, are we through with this? We got to score it. Do exactly like, got you, coach, and go out there. And not many guys could flip that switch back, and he could turn it. And then you had Rashad, and you guys, everybody would step their game up defense. You knew what we learned to do. I always say this, people don't understand this. Good players don't make you win. Teams have to learn. Winning is a learned behavior. Those teams already knew how to win. They just sometimes would let it slip out of their mind, and then they would revert right back and knew how to win. Winning is a learned behavior. Never forget that. You don't win because you got good players. You win because those teams do all the right things and have the right habits. And those teams still had those habits, and they could come back to them when they had to. And then I always said this: the Oregon game, the score was bad, but that game was nip and tuck, and we had. Jameis went down on the one. He scored, and they called it back and said his knee was down on the half-yard line when he dove in instead of walked in. We missed the field goal. Dalvin had 2 unruly fumble. He had big plays, and they tipped it out from behind. We had 600. Those teams, and it finally caught up to us in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And we had a couple plays on defense. We dropped an interception here and there, and we had our opportunities. And Oregon was a good football team, and it finally caught up to us. We didn't do enough fundamental things consistently. We had some not bad habits, but the focus issues at times and some youth. But those teams were still. It used to amaze me as much as how we could flip a switch and come back in 14 as much as it did dominate in 13. As a coach, I'm going.
That's what I always ask myself.
My God.
That 14 team in the second half versus that 13 team. That would have been an interesting matchup.
It really was, because the 14 team could switch it in that same mode. I do not agree. I disagree with you 1,000%. It was one of the most unique things, and we won 29 in a row. Yeah. And then at the end of 12, when we had that part was part of that streak to win 29 games in a row, and then the games. And what's funny, then we had the long conference winning streak, and then finally got beat at Georgia Tech on a blocked field goal.
Yeah.
And we're kicking it and jumped off sides and had to move it back, so he wanted to kick it longer, so he kicked it flatter. And it got blocked, and then run it. That's how we lost the conference. We lost a conference game in 4 years. But those things, that's sports. It comes back like that. But it's always like I said, fundamentals. Greatness is doing ordinary things better than anybody else at the most critical times and moments of a game. That's what greatness turns into. It's not the fancy things. It's the ordinary things and the fundamental things. And that's what the 14 team could go back and do. You just wish it didn't put itself in that spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But still, we had there were so many great talented players, but we were fundamental, they practiced hard, and they knew how to win, and they would pay the price to win.
We would like to thank Concord Coffee for sponsoring this episode. Fuel your day with Concord Coffee, Florida's favorite local roaster. Whether you're grabbing a freshly brewed cup on the go or savoring a latte crafted by our skilled baristas, Concord Coffee is all about bringing you quality and community in every sip. Visit us at our Lakeland or Gainesville locations, or shop online to get your favorite beans delivered right to your door. Start your day the Concord way, because great coffee isn't just a drink, it's an experience. Concord Coffee, where craft meets community. Make sure to visit concordcoffee.com to learn more.
Transition and then growth in life is a part of life. Growth is a part of life. But with you making so much history in Tallahassee, how difficult was it when you had to leave?
Most difficult thing I've ever done. Never wanted to go. And it has not. And I loved A&M. We had great success. I mean, the last couple of years we did, but that run we had there, and I don't mean that at anything there. I did not ever want to leave. It was just, I don't want to get into the way thing. I just knew it's kind of the situations the ACC's in now. I saw those things and tried to get us to get ahead of that a little bit. We never won anything for ourselves. I wanted more stuff for our staff and players and some more facilities, because I knew where the game was going and where we were putting our money. And it just, it never worked out. And I'm not trying to throw anybody on. I just, sometimes you do it. But I never did. Listen, I grew up a Florida State fan. I loved Florida State. I grew up loving Florida State. The Bowdens were like family to me, and I was like family to them. And it was the most difficult thing, one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And the players, I love the players. I mean, we had so much success. I mean, and we left a great team. I mean, even Cam Akers and Brian Burns and all those great players. I mean, we had great players still. Francois. I mean, we had so many great. I mean, there's tons of others. I mean, just throw it. I remember I cried. You remember the meeting? I cried. It killed me. But life takes turns sometimes.
For sure. You just talked about some of the great players you've had opportunity to coach. If you had to put together a top 5 or a top
don't do that.
Not top 5, just 5 no, out of order. Because the reality is, we can be real with ourselves. You naming all these people, it's like, I know I'm not on that list. I'm not even close.
No, you be. But see, I always said this: that some of those guys had more physical tools. Mm-hmm. Don't mean they were better players. Your role, when I always said this, I knew you were going to be. I said you were smart, you were tough, you knew all your things, and that position you played is not a glorified position.
Yeah.
But when we had to put Louisville away up there on 3rd and 2 at Louisville, who'd I throw the ball to in the flat, and he ran down the sideline for a 40-yard touchdown on the swap boot. You know what I'm talking about?
You want to know what's crazy? You don't even know this. Y'all know how sometimes I wouldn't be able to practice because of the migraines.
Uh-huh.
So I played that whole entire game with a migraine. I couldn't see.
I don't blame them. Listen, the way you played, you were epitome of who we were as a team. You were selfless. You were tough. You were very gifted. Even more that you could have gotten the ball more. Remember when we did hand you the ball, like we did at Clemson, when Sean finally did hand you the one on on the check. We were running Cooter Buck, and we were killing them the whole game with it. And he checked it the ball, so going the other way, and you hit it for about 50 down the sideline and scored. But whatever your role was, you took it. But you always knew this: when you called your number, you were always going to be there.
Deliver.
You know what I'm saying? And you could play, at a very high level, but with an unselfish attitude. Mm-hmm. And when we had to make those plays, you made so many big plays. Boy, it was blocks, catches, runs, and all those situations. That run was to put the game away, to win that game down there. Remember, on the Cooter Buck, you hit that run, and then the swap boot was to put Louisville up there when they had us, and you went 40 yards for a touchdown on the boot on 3rd down.
Yeah,
and making those plays. But it's like trying to who are your favorite kids? Yeah. It's like picking between your kids. Yeah. I mean, one thing I hope my players understand, I was tough and sometimes too tough, sometimes hard. But it never came from a bad place. It wasn't something that I ever wanted something bad for you. Sometimes I wanted it for you guys so much more than you could possibly dream for yourself. You know what I mean? And I knew what you were capable of. And sometimes, remember I always said you had to get used to learn to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Don't always want comfort. You got to become great. You have to learn to be uncomfortable and push yourself. And that's what I always try to do. But I always cared, loved, and respected everybody I ever coached and wanted to do that way. And when you're trying to say, not the best, maybe the most influential. I mean, you're talking about, I've never even mentioned Derwin James yet.
Yeah, Derwin.
I mean, Derwin James is as good a player as I ever coached. I mean, people have to understand how good a team guy he was, how much of a dog he was. Now, where he's from is questionable. That county down there in Polk County, where you're from. But I always said that pound for pound, inch for inch, that county is second to none.
I remember, because I was a dude that can lift the whole weight room, and I remember Derwin coming in. One day his schedule was conflicted. He had to come in and lift with our group. And everything I'm putting up, he putting up. I'm like, oh, what's going on?
But he could run, jump, but he was a team guy. He was a smart guy, and that's why he's having such a great pro career. There's no doubt. I mean, from Derwin James to Jalen Ray, I mean, them guys, to LaMarcus Joyner, but to Darby and PJ, to Terrence Brooks, how about Xavier Rhodes? And just secondary guys. How about Telvin? I mean, how about Carlos on offense? And heck, his brother, I mean, playing linebacker. I mean,
Carlos may be one of the most physically gifted athletes to ever come.
Oh, I mean, and Timmy up front, and Eddie, and Edwards, and I mean, you go back to even Amp, back in the poor Amp who passed away. I didn't, is sad. But Devontae and Dalvin, and Cam Akers and Carlos and Wilder. Let me tell you, Wilder. What an him and Carlos were backups on the 13 team. Those guys could start for anybody in America, and whatever their role was, he could do it. And then just how they thrived. I mean, Jameis, EJ, I mean, how's McGuire? I mean, tight ends. I mean, just the players we had, and just but they made themselves players too. I mean, Cam Irving, and see a lot of guys, Bjorn,
Yep.
Tank, San Antonio Raptors. You remember that in the meeting? The guy. I mean, a lot of Bjorn was a 3-star guy, wasn't highly rated. You know who Cam Irving had offers to?
Ooh.
It was Florida State and Georgia Southern.
Oh, no.
I mean, think about that. Trey Jackson, NC State, Georgia Tech. Now Bobby was highly recruited. Nick was. Freeman, he never had an offer when I offered him. At the end of the year, he did. He never even started a game. I offered him at Florida State before he ever started a game his senior year.
It's crazy. Y'all heard the story. Y'all went to watch somebody else. And
I went down there to watch somebody else and watched him, and told him I was one. And one of our coaches said, "Wait, bring him to camp." We came to camp. I'll tell you a funny story. I came to camp, and he's working out. And it's one of them hot camps in June, man. I mean, it was muggy and hot, and he's all nervous. So he goes to do the workout. 10 minutes in, he cramps up. He's locked up from head to toe. And so I said, "Oh, it's all right. We'll get it later." And he starts crying. He thinks he's blown his opportunity. I said, "No, son, you're all right. I love you. I know you can play. I want these guys to see you, but just get yourself right." So I go down the other end at camp. You know how that camp, I'm walking around seeing camp. Get tapped my shoulder about 20 minutes later. It's him. I said, "Son, he said, "No, coach, I want to go." We go back down there. He go about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I called off and said, "Hey, that's enough." He said, "Coach, I'll do whatever. It's not." I said, "Why? You got a scholarship to Florida State." And he looked at me, and he had never started a game in high school. He was a 0-star, wasn't even ranked, didn't have a ranking. I mean, a lot of our great players were like, Rashad was a 3-star guy. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of our great players, Terrence Smith, PJ was a 3-star guy. Terrence Brooks was a 3-star guy. And they lived less than an hour from Gainesville.
That's crazy.
Never got off. Xavier Rhodes was a 3-star guy. I mean, guys, everybody wasn't that 5-star superstar you think. We had guys that grinded and worked and made themselves into players. Telvin was a 3-star guy. I mean, so it wasn't always, we had the 5-stars that played, but I mean, those teams worked and played, and to pick those, I mean, I've been so blessed. I mean, just those guys here to play and watch, I mean, and Roberto was a kicker, you know what I mean? And have Dustin Hopkins and Roberto and Gano. I mean, we had 3 pro kickers in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, kickers. I mean, and Roberto didn't win our camp. He actually didn't win our camp, but I offered him out of our camp. I liked him. There was something about him I liked. I mean, sometimes we'd win a lot on that, just who was a fit for us at Florida State. You know what I mean? Because I thought it took a special type of person to play here then.
Definitely.
Not just ability-wise, but I'm talking about mentality-wise, and how you saw your future and temperament and who you were as a person. And those teams were so good. And I go back, go back to the LSU days. The one guy I don't talk about, he had Jamarcus, but Rohan Davey for me, my God. Matt Mock was the guy I won the national championship with. I always tell the story. Rohan, he didn't drive. All he did was over 4,000 yards that year and played tough, and his team, he could make play. He was unbelievable. Matt Mock, he comes from pro baseball for 3 years. And the first spring, in the spring game, he went 0 for 10. He wasn't starting, Rohan was. The next spring, he's going to be our starter. He threw 6 picks. All he did was go 19-2 and get drafted and play in the NFL 4 years and went 19-2 and won a national championship at LSU and made himself, played and was a leader and a tough guy. I mean, we had Whitworth and Rudy Niswinger and Ben Wilkerson and Toefield and Stephen Peterman up front was a phenomenal guy. And Eric, we had, on defense, man, we were Glenn Dorsey and Kyle Williams and Ron Landry and Corey Webster and Travis Daniels and Blue Guy. That team was a lot the same way, though. They weren't all 5-star guys. That's why those teams reminded me so much of each other. Just dogs that could play. I mean, Randall Blue Gay. I mean, we had we had so many great players. And a lot of guys that flipped positions like you guys did. Linebacker to offense, defense. Cam Irv. We moved a lot of guys in those days that were great, but just so many. I couldn't name. I really couldn't. I don't mean that to cop out.
I definitely understand.
And then Joyner. Joyner was his own. I always
broke it down. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, you can. think about that. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm glad I wasn't coaching them.
I got one last question, so we can get you out of here. I haven't been around anybody that I feel like loves ball like you do, and you just hear that passion echoing through. Is it something that you want to do again? some point.
People have asked me that, and I've enjoyed my time with my family because your family does. But I always tried to include my family. Remember, I took the kids, and we always had them at practices, and they were like part of the team. They were in the locker rooms and doing all that. But to answer your question, if the right situation comes along and it's right, I'm still 59. I'm still in great shape. I'm healthy. Have had success everywhere we've ever been. We know at the end at A&M it's unfortunate, but we also had the highest ranked team they ever had there in 2020. That's the last one they've had at 30. Well, we play with our quarterbacks got hurt. We play with first team and third team, and not only did they play good, it's just hard to get play calling and get guys around, and we play with a little inconsistency, and we didn't pan out like we needed to, but I still, the way the game is, and yes, I still do, because I still love it. I never thought it was a job, and I loved it, and I think be able to do it, I would. I mean, I've been fortunate. I've won 72% of my games, won 80% of my playoff games, been fortunate to win a national championship as a head coach, as assistant, but so many I miss the relationships and the players. Yeah. But to ask you that, yeah, I would be very interested in still doing it, because I think I still got a lot to give, and I'd like to get back out there. I really would.
You talk about just resume, what you've been able to do with the quarterbacks, just the quarterbacks you mentioned in this interview, and there's way more guys than that. But then the highest ranked recruiting class ever in history, and just the mentality that you brought to programs that were trying to find their way back. There's no better resume, and I'm looking from afar, man, to somebody that knows you, and I haven't come across somebody that loves ball, so I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, if the right opportunity comes up. But I love Florida State, but we were at home. I don't know if you remember when I texted you when you guys upset Florida that year.
Yeah,
we were all cheering, like we were just excited, man, because we know what you put into this.
Well, that means you saying that as an ex-player means more than any article or anything anybody could say, because at the end of the day, that's why I did it. I loved ball, but I love my players, and I love the players, and I want you guys to be successful on the field, off the field, and everything. We tried to establish that, and you guys, I've been blessed so much by that. And you saying that, I mean, it hits me deep in my heart. It really does, because my caring is the love I have for the players. As hard as I am on them, I love you hard, but I care hard. I truly believe that, and that's the only way I knew. That's the way I had tough love, and that's the way I grew up. But I always said the tough love is the best love, because I wanted it so bad for you guys. When you saying that to me and meaning that, I'm glad it came through, and I know it's why you're successful. I knew you would be, but you saying that to me means that's why I coach, and that means everything to me. Thank you.
I believe now that you're part of the reason that I'm able to be successful. I told you a little bit on the phone the other day. I just always thought back to when I was trying to figure things out, and you were like, man, Freddie, no matter what you do, you'll be successful. But I also remember that meeting we had in your office, and me as a fullback, you were telling me, man, Freddie, this team will only be great if you speak up. But I didn't know at the time.
You had a presence about you.
Yeah, I didn't have. But now it's like crazy to see that I've made that transition and I'm vocal now. I found my voice.
Well, that's funny, because me and Red I was talking that our strength, but Vic was the head coach and Red was our assistant strength coach, and Red right now is going through some struggle. He's going through a cancer battle, but right now he's doing great. And I was just literally talking to him as I was riding over here. He said, "Freddie's doing a podcast." He wouldn't say 2 words when he was at school. Yeah. But you what I always said is, you don't have to say words to have an impact. Mm-hmm. Your impact was your work ethic, your toughness, your mentality, the way you went about your things every day. People had respect for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I always said people have respect. And then I tried to get you to come out of your shell a little bit to do that, because, like you said, you didn't think you saw yourself as a star player. I did. And the roles you did and the things you did it's funny how the media looks at players and how coaches look at players.
Yeah, facts.
Huh? Yeah. Because what we think is crucial to winning and success and overall team camaraderie and things, the media sometimes don't see. Mm-hmm. And there's certain guys that just those silent guys that had huge impacts, and that's what you were. And I think that's what I was trying to bring out that day, and obviously I'm glad it did. And now you're having success. I'm so happy for you, and sure. And you learned, like I say, you found your voice, and people are listening.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I love you guys, man. I really do.
I love you too.
Well, Freddie, how you doing?
Man, I'm good. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm excited about to talk about our talk today, but also I'm excited about the love we got and the hate from our football predictions last week with the AFC North and South. I mean, it's been about a week since we talked about that. I don't think any of my opinions have changed for those divisions, even with like injuries or anything like that. But let's just get straight into it. AFC East. I'm going to start with the Bills. They lost Micah Hyde, Kareem Jackson, Von Miller, Amari Cooper, Rasul Douglas, Mac Hollins, Quentin Jefferson, and Dwayne Smoot. They gained Josh Palmer, which I think is a pretty sneaky receiver pickup. Loved him in the last few years on the Chargers. Elijah Moore is another big one. Shaq Thompson, Tre'Davious White goes back, and then Joey Bosa. They retained Josh Allen. They signed him to a 6-year extension. Greg Rousseau, 4-year extension. Terrell Bernard, 4-year extension. The cornerback Benford is on another 4-year extension, and they brought back DeMar. And they drafted Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of University of Kentucky. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina in the second round. And then someone that I didn't necessarily think would... I thought he'd be taken a little bit earlier, but Landon Jackson, the defensive end out of Arkansas.
Yeah, Landon, he went viral a few years ago for that. At that camp.
But he looked so goofy because he was just tall and not.
He was slapping the hell out the bag.
Yeah. But he also, he's grown into his body a little bit more. He looked spectacular. I mean, you got a D end. I mean, I don't really know his stats, but in my head. But he looked like he belonged in the SEC, which is, D ends in the SEC, And then they also, just looking at their team, they still have Cook as of right now.
Yep.
They still need to figure out the contract. They have Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Deion Dawkins, Ed Oliver, Milano, and then Taron that's an actor. Taron Johnson and Taylor Rapp. Same coaching staff. I know I'm wearing the New England hat today, and I'm a big New England fan, but I think it's pretty, even with the subtractions, it's pretty hard for them to, lose. They lost Stephon Diggs too. But that was 2 years ago. I think that they have a chance to, like the Ravens, make the Super Bowl, probably on my short list for Super Bowl contenders. What are you feeling about the Bills?
Yeah, no, every team, when you talk about these teams on that side of things, not name the Chiefs, teams like the Bills and the Ravens, they're in that conversation every year. The Bills are in that conversation. They're going to be one of the best teams. It just comes down to whether or not they can get over that hurdle, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, that's it. They've dominated the division the past few years, and I think they'll do it again this year. With a little bit of pushback, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. The Bills. Yeah, like you said, they've been on the door. They've been knocking on the door of a Super Bowl bid. It's been like 2-3 years where it's like a couple plays away. I think McDermott is a great coach. I think that Brady has been an awesome offensive coordinator for Josh Allen. And when you got a dude like Josh Allen, he's a transcendental player. He's one of those dudes that he'll lift everybody up. It doesn't matter who you have on your roster. He's going to bring them up. We saw that with Brady. You see that with Manning in certain situations. You see that with all of these players. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, hopefully eventually like CJ Stroud and all these guys. But he's just one of those dudes. It's like you can give him a bunch of 3 receivers and he'll find a way to win 10 games. That defense has been spectacular. And I think, honestly, the Bills are in a weird position where it's, if they would have won a Super Bowl and made it to another Super Bowl, they could easily be the same situation as the Eagles. They're very similar where they have, a quarterback that, can change the game. Jalen Hurts in a different way, with his legs and with his, not making a lot of mistakes. You saw last year Josh Allen kind of stopped throwing picks, which is a huge thing. Picks and then sacks. Those are the 2 big things that quarterbacks cannot do. And then when you get someone who does, both of those, they kind of mess with you. Last year, we saw Josh Allen kind of go away from both of those, breaking all these tackles, not throwing the ball away, but not throwing it into defenders' hands. So I think it's really hard for anyone in their division to really topple them over. But like you said, there's a few teams in this division that have a lot of X factors.
Yeah.
And that leads me to the Jets.
Yeah.
Very interesting team. Fully different, like completely different coaching staff. Aaron Glenn in there. Loved Aaron Glenn as a defensive coordinator for the Lions. He's a dog. They lost Devontae Adams, Hassan Reddick, DJ Reed, Javon Kinlaw, Tyler Conklin, Tyrone Smith, Morgan Moses, Solomon Thomas, Ashton Davis, and Jalen Mills. They gained Justin Fields, and Aaron Rodgers, of course. They gained Justin Fields, Josh Reynolds, Chakuma Okafor, Josh Myers, Brandon Stevens, and Andre Sisco. And then they brought back Garrett Wilson on a 4-year deal, breaking the bank. Sauce on a 4-year deal, breaking the bank.
Yep.
And then Jamian Sherwood on a 3-year deal, who I thought was quietly one of the best linebackers, at least in the AFC. And then, they drafted Armand Membao out of Mizzou, the offensive tackle. Mason Taylor, who I thought he was an interesting player last year, where he has you see a lot of these tight ends, they're either Brock Bowers or they have the tools to be great.
Yeah.
And like Mason Taylor's that dude, he's got the genetics, obviously, but he's also got the intangible to be an elite tight end eventually. They got Azariah Thomas out of Florida State.
Oh, yeah, Zaria Thomas. Yeah.
Cornerback.
Yeah.
Arian Smith, wide receiver out of UGA, local guy. And then Malachi Moore out of Bama, the safety. So, their draft was great.
Yeah.
The Aaron Glenn stuff, I don't know. The thing that's a little concerning with Aaron Glenn or with this coaching staff is just, and it could be concerning or it could be an amazing thing, is how they handled the Aaron Rodgers situation. Like, as much as I don't necessarily, we talked about it with the Steelers. Like, he's the X factor for that team. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't necessarily have the tools he used to have. But the way that they kind of, and this is all coming from Aaron Rodgers, so it could be a situation where it's not true, but the way that it kind of played out, where Aaron Glenn brought him over and then told him that he's not going to be a quarterback there anymore. I don't know. A part of me wonders if that was like a bad coaching move, or if that's like no, he's a decisive coach. This is great. But the only thing that kind of confusing to me is like going from that to Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is an immense talent in certain ways, but we've seen his track record.
Yeah.
It's just it's a weird team. What are your thoughts?
I think I'm excited about Aaron Glenn taking over things. For Aaron Rodgers, it's like you said, you don't really know how things went. There's one side, the other side, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle. Both sides are going to exaggerate it a little bit. But now I think, I do think that it was great that they moved on, because it was going to be a situation where the team continued to be held hostage by some of his antics. So you had to move 100%. On. You had to move on, and I think that's what Aaron Glenn, he wanted to send that message early on. Like, we're going to have to move on. You're not going to hold this team up. We're moving in a different direction. Yeah. So, however it played out is how it played out, but I like him, making that move to now not allow his team that has a chance to do something, to be held hostage by a veteran quarterback that's been known to do that to some of his teams.
No, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I think my only concern when I was talking about it was if it was a scared move or if it was a decisive move, and it seems like it was a decisive move. You can't. We talked about it last year. We talked about it last week with the Jags, where when Doug Peterson makes scared moves, that's when it starts getting dicey. When he makes confidence moves, when it's Bill Belichick, when it's Mike Vrabel, when it's Andy Reid, and they make confident moves, that just reverberates throughout a team. Yeah. So part of me thinks, like I said, I was like, it's a double-edged sword. It's two sides of the same coin. Like Aaron Glenn could, in my head, I want to believe Aaron Glenn made this decision decisively because he wanted to change the culture and he wanted to change the team. And it's just sometimes there's a little bit of smoke there where it's like, this might have been more of a Woody Johnson decision than an Aaron Glenn decision, which is fine. But Woody Johnson's proven not to be, the best owner. But no, I mean, they still have Breece Hall. They have Braylon Allen, who I think is a really good talent at running back. Ola Fashanu, Quinn Williams.
Only a dog.
He's a dog. Quinn Williams is a dog. Also hilarious human. And then their DC, Steve Wilkes.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Steve Wilkes. I mean, when he was at the Cardinals.
Yeah. No, he's a dog. I mean, his last big coaching job was
Panthers, right?
I think as a head coach, but I think he was the DC for a couple of those Niners teams.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I mean, he's a great talent. They lost a lot of guys. They brought a lot of guys in. It seems like they're retooling. In my head, we'll talk about our dark horses to win in a little bit. In my head, they're definitely in that range, but they're more than likely not there yet. I think they need one more good draft, one more free agency to make these big splashes. Because they're not a trade away. They're not a quarterback trade away. Yeah. They're not a D lineman trade away, O lineman trade away. They're a few moves away. Similar to my Patriots, which we'll talk about in a second. But no, I think overall, they're in a good spot. They're making good decisions. I like Aaron Glenn. He's been a great coach. So, next up is the Pats. Which I'll try very hard to be unbiased, but I will say before we get too deep, I am excited for this team. We lost Jacoby Brissett, Jonathan Jones, Dietrich Weiss, Devon Godshaw, Jawan Bentley, David Andrews, Joe Milton, and then our long snapper Joe Cardona. Only reason I put him on there is because he's been there for 12 years. And then we gained Josh Dobbs as our backup quarterback, Mac Hollins, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Marcus Epps, Robert Spillane, Kayvon Chasen, who I actually kind of really like as a sneaky, rotation edge rusher, Stephon Diggs, and Harold Landry. We kept Austin Hooper. And we drafted Will Campbell, offensive tackle LSU in the first round. Travion Henderson, running back, second round. Kyle Williams, wide receiver, third round. Jared Wilson, the only reason I put Jared Wilson is because from all accounts, he's going to be one of our starting linemen.
Okay.
UGA out in the fourth round. And then Brandon Swinson, who we've talked about a little bit, being one of those defensive leaders for LSU as an edge rusher. I want to hear your take first. Before I say that, we changed coaching staff.
Vrabel coming in.
McDaniel's coming back. Williams, who was the D-line coach for Vrabel when he was at Tennessee. And then obviously Drake May's second year. Demario Douglas has been a shifty little receiver. Hunter Henry, Christian Barrymore, Keon White, Kyle Duggar. Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers. Yep. Those are all our retained players. What are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, no, I think when I talked earlier about the Bills facing a little resistance, it was all about the Patriots. The Jets coming in, we know that the Jets are going to have a good defense. But even with a new coach running things in Aaron Glenn, you're still going to see some of those offensive issues that they had. They don't have that quarterback that they were looking for. That franchise QB, I think Justin Fields is solid and he can do some things, but I don't know if he's that quarterback that can lead you to a championship. But with the Patriots, they got a lot of solid pieces, getting Carlton Davis, Harold Landry. Yep. Those guys, man, that's huge pickups. And then I think the emergence of Drake May, that's going to be huge. Stephon Diggs, now he got a guy, number one guy that he's going to be able to rely on. Stephon Diggs coming off a knee injury. He looks better than he looked in the past. How does this guy continue to play at the elite level? We thought he was going to fall off after Minnesota. Got even better in Buffalo. Looked good in Houston last year, got that injury. And now he's looking great. He's motivated. So he's going to help a young QB. And one of my favorite guys in this draft is Travion Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to lock in and watch the Patriots even more. I think they got a lot of the great pieces. They have a guy in Mike Vrabel that's going to bring the right mentality to this locker room.
Mm-hmm.
He played there. He understands what it takes to be successful, and that's exactly what they need. So I think this is a team that's going to give the Bills the biggest challenge in this division.
Well, that makes me extremely happy to think. I think it's all just kind of relies on if our offensive line can hold up. Basically, if Will Campbell can take that next step into NFL player. And then coming from that, Drake May's play. He had some great flashes last year. He reminded me a lot of that second year with Josh Allen, where he threw a little bit into coverage. He was having a hard time really adjusting, and then he made that big splash in year 2, 3, and 4, and then becoming MVP, of course, down the line. This team excites me. I think that's the biggest thing. Is like having been a Patriots fan my whole life. You know, I've had the championship teams where you go in and you're like, this team can win a championship. I've also had, those Belichick teams with Mac Jones where you're just hoping that make a playoff run. And then last year where it was the first time, not to sound like a whiny Patriots fan, it was the first time in my lifetime that I've had to root for a bad team. All of these other teams were good. They're at least okay. That was a bad team. There was good moments. There was good flashes. There was really cool, really cool stuff. But the coaching just wasn't there. The personnel, as a result, were also not there. No, I think Vrabel and Elliott Wolf have put together a really good team. We've made some really cool splashes. I really loved the Harold Landry pickup. The defensive pieces that we're picking up. The fact that Harold Landry is no longer on the Titans is interesting because he was a game wrecker for them. I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's between them and the Jets in my head. I think the Dolphins kind of took a step back, which we'll go to next. The Dolphins, they lost Jordan Poirier, Isaiah Wynn, Jeff Wilson, Blake Ferguson, who is their long snapper, Tyler Huntley, Calais Campbell, Javon Holland, Emmanuel Ogbah, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and Braxton Berrios. They got Zach Wilson, Mike Hilton, Jermaine Ifedi, Ashton Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu. They got Joe Cardona, who was our long snapper, Alexander Madison, Jack Jones, Willie Gay Jr., Farrell Brown, who I actually really like, Artie Burns, who just got injured, unfortunately, Minka Fitzpatrick, Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's a sneaky receiver, Darren Waller, who's also injured but probably will be back for the season, and then James Daniels. They retained Dwayne Eskridge, who is currently injured, Liam Eichenberg, and Terrell Dodson. And then they drafted Kenneth Grant, the Michigan defensive end, in the first round, Jonah Savianea, the guard from Arizona, Ollie Gordon in round 6, the running back of Oklahoma State, and then Quinn Ewers, who, by all accounts, in the 7th round, drafted as a quarterback, has turned heads.
Yeah.
I think that if he stayed for another year and made a bunch of money in college, he would have been drafted higher. But he's kind of he ended up in like a perfect spot because they still have Tua, Tyreek, Jalen. They kept Sealer, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. I think will be playing at some point this year. Same coaching staff, but like Tua is.
You just never know, man.
He's been an injury risk, and if Quinn Ewers is the backup,
you might get an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm less worried. Zach Wilson's in that building too, which I like Zach Wilson as a personality, but his quarterback play has been a little suspect. But Quinn Ewers, by all account, might be the actual backup quarterback for this team, which means that they have like a real chance to keep going. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but my genuine reaction to this team, as much as I love the skill position guys and some of like the defensive talent, I think there's a chance that Mike McDaniels might be the first coach fired.
Yeah, hate to say it, but I'm with you. I think the Dolphins, like you said, they look good. They got a lot of offensive talent. They put up a lot of points, exciting. But the Miami Dolphins have become that team. Did you used to watch SpongeBob? You remember the episode with SpongeBob? He had those big muscles. Yeah, the Miami Dolphins have become that team with the SpongeBob muscles. They
100%.
look good. Everything looks pretty. But once it's time to lift some real weights and get something done, they can't do it.
Yep.
They fall apart at the end of every year. And that's what they become, man. Are they ever going to be able to piece that together? I don't know. This is the prove it year. But based on the history that we've seen, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. No, the biggest thing too the biggest question that I've heard is culture too, like culture in that building, and not to say that this matters at all, but like just talking, like seeing. I didn't mention him, but there's an O lineman that moved from, like the Texans or something like that, and he was talking about how the vibe at the Miami Dolphins is a completely different vibe. Like at the Texans, you couldn't have your phone in meetings, you couldn't do all this stuff, and then he was like, "But here it's chill," you know. And in my head, I understand there's different ways to lead, there's different ways to do things. You're not gonna get good results, great results, unless everybody's focused.
Yeah.
You know, there's a major focal point on the end goal of winning a championship, and I just don't think that there's been a focus. I mean, you see that with Tyreek Hill's entire offseason antics, and I love Tyreek Hill. I think he's a wonderful talent. I mean, he, you know, has some moments where he needs to maybe grow up a little bit, but he's a great player.
Yeah, he delivers.
He delivers, even in bad situations. I mean, like, but then you hear excerpts like all off season he's asking to be traded, you know, and then he gets kind of what he wants and he stays, and then he's talking about how he didn't understand the playbook until this year. You know, you're like that at the like that's all red flags to me. And I mean, and just because Quinn Ewers has been playing really well in practice and looks to be maybe the backup, like Tua is an injury risk. You know, every time we've heard like, oh, he's learned to fall, he's doing jujitsu, you know, he's lost weight, he's gained weight, he's changed his training regimen. It's never mattered. Yeah. You know, and it's all head stuff. Like he's gotten so many concussions.
Yeah, yes.
You can't
dangerous, man.
Once you've gotten to that point where you've had that many concussions, you can't work that. There's no way to work that out. Like you just you're prone to concussions now. Like he's at the point now where it's like he's at least a couple away from seriously. Like, I mean, 2 years ago, people were saying maybe he should retire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, even like, man, every time he goes out there now, you cringe and you just like, man, I pray everything is okay. And then he ends up getting another concussion. And after that one, I'm like, man, he should shut it down. I get that you're like, man, this is what I want to do, but life is bigger than a game of football. Yeah. You know, and a guy with his frame, he's going to run into injuries. Like, you dealing with these guys, his frame is going to happen. They say NFL anyways is 100% injury rate. But then you're a guy that doesn't have as much size on. You're a frail type of guy. Even when you try to put on weight, you're still a small guy. You're going to run into some bad situations. So, I don't know. You just have to hope that everything works out for Tua, because I don't want to see a situation where he becomes a headline in a bad way. But every time he steps out there at this point, he's putting himself in jeopardy of that. Yeah. No, 100%, man. And it's worrisome, you know, just seeing him get hit now, which, you know, is only coming from like a place of like love as a fan. But to stop getting all sappy, what rookies are you looking forward to in this division? The rookie I'm looking forward to, I was gonna go with my guy, I mentioned him earlier, Travion Henderson, but I feel like the Patriots got one of the biggest steals in the draft. Joshua Foreman from Florida State, 5th round draft pick. Okay. He was a guy that was projected to go high last year. Yep. He ended up coming back and didn't have the year that he wanted to have. And then he ended up finishing the season strong. He came on at the end of the year, but started it slow. Mm-hmm. I think you guys are going to get a motivated Joshua Foreman. He's a guy that can be dominant when he's locked in. I think he's going to come in and make an impact on this team from day one. Go check out his tape. Y'all got a guy. Okay. Y'all got a guy. And I think Joshua Foreman can be a huge guy in this league and help the Patriots out and go to the next level for sure.
That's a great one. I'll have to look more into him because he's not currently on my radar. I think for me, I've said it a lot, but I think it's Quinn Ewers. Just because he's just got an X factor. He was a really fun college player. He was always a really consistent player. Made a couple errors, down the stretch, but it's college.
Yeah,
he'll learn. The most positive thing about the McDaniels coaching staff and this organization is that they really cater to offense, and they really teach their offensive players. Like Tua is taking leaps and bounds in this offense. We see them beat teams by 70. So I'm excited to see what he can do in that. Vets that could make a difference.
I think it's another Patriots guys all day. Huge difference. Getting Stephon Diggs for Drake May, that's a huge difference. You got an elite receiver to throw the ball out to. If you ever get into a bind, look his way. He's going to get it done for you. One-on-one, you're not guarding the man. He's a guy that's going to – you've seen it already. He's leading the younger guys, helping them out, giving them some of his experience, putting it on these guys, some of the things that he knows, his secrets in the game. And it's just only going to help his receivers get better and make his job easier, and it's going to only make Vrabel's job easier, Drake May's job easier, and help them in their development process.
No, I love that. It's cool to hear that from someone who's not necessarily a Patriots fan.
Yeah, for you, they would say you're a homer.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the same thing, but for me, I'm going to say Josh Palmer.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I love Josh Palmer's game with the Chargers. When they didn't have a receiver one, he emerged as a receiver one. It got to the point down the stretch last year when Josh Palmer was injured or not playing. Everybody was like, who's Herbert going to throw to? I think that they added a dude who could become a one receiver or be like a fringe 1.5 receiver, 2 receiver. Especially when you have, the weapons they do, like Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and all these other dudes on that team, Elijah Moore. They're kind of built in a weird way, like a lot of those old Patriots teams where it's like there's no clear one receiver. Maybe one will emerge, but they're just going to keep throwing it everywhere. Which I think is perfect for Josh Allen, because whenever he has a bunch of very good receivers, he seems to flourish and be able to throw it very consistently. So he would be mine. Something that may surprise us.
Dang, man. In this division, it's so interesting. But the only thing I would say that would surprise me is if the Jets were able to put together a solid offense, because we've seen it for the past couple years. The defenses have kept them in games. You're like, man, if they were only able to score 17 points, they would be in the playoffs right now pushing for a Super Bowl. That would surprise me.
I think that would have been mine too. The Jets are a interesting team because they lost a lot of players. They completely changed the coaching staff. It's a defensive coach who for a long time they had blue chippers on the lines, but he's making a lot of something out of nothing in certain spots. I'm very interested to see how they perform. But no, that's a great one. That would be mine as well. Who will win this division?
I think the Bills win the division.
Yeah, I think so as well. As much as I'd love to be a homer and say the Patriots are going to win, I think we just got a little bit more growing to do. I might have a different tune after the first month of the season. But the Bills are the team to beat. They're the Giants to slay in this division. Who's the dark horse?
I wouldn't even say a dark horse, but I would just call them a sleeper at this point. We talked about the Jets and the defense that they have and how things can move forward for them if they're able to put together some things on offense. We talked about the Patriots and the growth that we expect them to make this year. We know what the Bills are. But everybody knows the Dolphins have taken a step back the past few years. They are the dark horse, and they have a lot to prove. They're a sleeper. Everybody's counting them out. You've seen them put together all this excitement, but now is the make it or break it year. Can y'all take the next step with this team? Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddles, your A-Chain, all these guys, and with your quarterback having all these issues, and then your head coach having all these issues, and he's in a situation where if they don't get things done this year, he's probably out the door. So for me, they have the most on the table for anybody in this division.
I love that. They could always surprise me. I think they're definitely a dark horse in that aspect. I would probably say it's a tie for me between the Jets and the Patriots, just because they're both they both have amazing pieces and cool, very good coaching staffs.
Yep.
As far as on paper, I wouldn't be surprised if it's mostly injuries. I think that's the big thing. Is like if the Bills have the bad injury luck, then the Jets or the Patriots could take the division. And that's pretty much it. Moving on to the AFC West. Defending AFC champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost Carson Wentz, DJ Humphries, Samaje Perine, Mecole Hardman, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Watson, Justin Reed, who, shout out, that's actually a big one, and Josh Uche. They gained Robert Tonyan, Elijah Mitchell, Gardner Minshew, Mike Edwards, Jalen Moore, and Christian Fulton, who I actually think is a really, really big pickup for them. They brought back Bailey Zappi, Kareem Hunt, Marquise Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Trey Smith, George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, and Nick Bolton. And they drafted Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, and Omar Norman-Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee. And they obviously still have Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco, Rice, Worthy, Creed, McDuffie, same coaching staff. I think the only thing that's going to be a negative for this team is age. Yeah. I think Kelsey's getting older. As you see, like elite O-lines and elite defensive players, when they start getting older, it gets a little bit rough. And then also we've seen in the past, not saying it's going to happen, but we've seen Andy Reid kind of get stale with stars, quarterbacks too. I don't think it's going to happen. I genuinely think that they're going to just kind of pick up where they left off. They're going to have a good season. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think the Chiefs this division is theirs until it isn't, and not only that, man, they run the AFC until somebody says otherwise.
Yeah,
the only team that I've seen over the past few years that seemed like they put a little bit of fear and made the Chiefs a little bit uncomfortable is the Bengals when they're rolling, but they do that with a lot of teams. With the Bengals, you just know that if they don't start the season off, you don't even have to worry about them in the playoffs. But the Chiefs, man, this is their division, man. They've been running it. They got the best quarterback in football, and you're a Patriots fan. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady was a match made in heaven.
Yeah,
one of the greatest coaches of all time, the best player of all time, best quarterback of all time, Tom Brady.
Yep.
You got a similar situation with Andy Reid, an offensive guru, and what we feel like they talk about the skill of Aaron Rodgers. I feel like Patrick Mahomes is probably the most gifted quarterback to ever come in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's with Andy Reid. These guys can win who knows how many championships. So as long as those two are together, you can insert anybody in on this offense and they'll be able to make it work. That's why no matter what you look at, every single year, the Chiefs are going to be in that conversation to win the Super Bowl. So I think it's their division until it isn't.
I like that. That makes sense. Yeah, I think the only thing that, like I said, was concerning is age, and then the production of Pat Mahomes has gone down a little bit over the years. But I mean, you having a 50 touchdown season is not going to happen every year. Moving on to the Broncos, they lost Cody Barton, Zach Cunningham, Javonte Williams, and Zach Wilson. They gained J.K. Dobbins, Sam Ehlinger, Evan Ingram, Dre Greenlaw, and Talanoa Hufanga. They retained Jarrett Stidham and Matt Pert, and they drafted Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas, R.J. Harvey, running back out of UCF, and Pat Bryant, the wide receiver out of Illinois. Obviously, same coaching staff. Peyton, second year there. They still have Bo Nix, Cam Sutton, Troy Franklin, Garrett Bowles, McClinchy, Maynards, Zach Allen they just paid, and then Riley Moss and Pat Surtain. Not to blow what I'm going to say later, but I think this team, out of any team in the division, has a chance to win it over the Chiefs. And it's purely because of how surprising they were last year and then how good they've become. All of those additions were spectacular. I love the R.J. Harvey pick. He was a really fun running back in college. And then they extended Cam Sutton, and Troy Franklin was Nix's guy at Oregon. So they've got that rapport. Bringing in Evan Ingram is awesome too. I mean, you look at those old teams with Drew Brees and Peyton. They had Jimmy Graham and all these guys. They really, really rely on a strong tight end, and the O-line is just otherworld. Like, it's crazy how they've rebuilt that O-line. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, the defense gave everybody fits last year. Mm-hmm. That defense is one of the best in the league, and they're gonna come back to cause problems this year. They drafted Will, getting Barron from Texas, just to go along with guys like Pat Surtain. Mm-hmm. Pat Surtain, you saw the video of Jamar Chase online talking with Chad Johnson, and he was trying to tell him how to get off a press, and they're like, "Hey, this is not going to work with Pat Surtain. This dude is giving some of the best receivers in the league nightmares. Yeah. He's gifted. So to bring in another guy to come help this charge when you got these guys that rush the passer and give other teams fits, man, it's going to be interesting. And now you got Bo Nix coming into the charge, and he's Sean Payton's guy, man. Payton has been able to work with Drew Brees and been able to get the most out of him, and now he has a guy that's more athletic. It's going to be interesting to see what his team does.
Yeah, when Sean Payton's bought into a team and a quarterback, it's kind of scary.
Yep.
And I think he is insanely bought into this one. Moving on, the Chargers. They lost Nick Neiman, Poona Ford, DJ Shark, Christian Fulton, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Palmer, Joey Bosa, Hayden Hurst, Marcus May, Asante Samuel Jr., and Gus Edwards. They gained Trey Lance, Najee Harris, who's hurt, Tyler Conklin, Andre James, Mekhi Becton, Deshaun Hand, Dante Jackson, Elijah Molden, Benjamin St. Juste, who I sneaky really like. And then Tony Jefferson came out of retirement.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then they retained Taylor Heineke, Bud Dupree and Khalil Mack, Denzel Perryman, who just got arrested, unfortunately.
Yeah, those gun laws in different states are crazy because he really didn't,
in
Florida he would have been good.
He would have been fine. But still, you're playing in Los Angeles. You should know.
Yeah.
And then they drafted two of the best players that I think they could have gotten: Omari and Hampton in the first round, running back out of UNC, and Trey Harris. The wide receiver.
That's a big one.
Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's a big
round
pickup.
2. I thought Trey Harris could have snuck into the first round, depending on who was drafting at the end there. Obviously, they have Herbert. They kept Ladd, Joe Alt, Slater on both sides, and then Derwin. They also have a sneaky Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, who was there last year, didn't do much, but I think that he has a chance to be really good. He was fun at USC. Harbaugh, still there. I think the biggest thing for me about this team, I'm a little concerned that like the pieces aren't all there, but my biggest thing about this team are the two running back additions. A Harbaugh team is a running team.
Yeah.
And bringing in Najee Harris and Omari and Hampton are huge additions, both cut from similar cloths but do very different things. Mm-hmm. The Najee injury is a little scary, but other than that, overall, very, very, very fun team, very interesting team. They did a good job keeping their vets too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, the Chargers are always exciting, but like you said, it always feels like they're close, but they're missing something. Mm-hmm. And is this the year that they finally get over that hump? Who knows? But it just, until they show us differently, that's how we have to go into the season and approach it. Like, we see the promise from Justin Herbert and a lot of guys. They got one of the best safeties in the game, Derwin James, and you got these weapons that you brought in. But for some reason, they just always fall short every year, even though there's so much promise and expectation. And, of course, you're going against – it's tough when you're going against Pat Mahomes, and that's the guy that you have to go against. A lot of teams can say the same thing. But even with that, like having seasons where, you're not getting into the playoffs, with the level of talent that you have, that's unacceptable. Of course, they got in last year, but you've seen what they've done over the past years before that. It's just the year that they take some steps ahead and become a force in the AFC. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing, or the thing that makes me the most excited, is just the consistency at the edge tackles. Both those guys played at an elite level last couple of years. Ladd McConkey, I'm a little pissed that we didn't draft him. We had multiple chances to. He's very nice. He plays so shifty. Herbert, I mean, he doesn't have the wins, but he has the. I mean, he reminds me so much of Phillip Rivers. It's not even funny. You know, like he's not necessarily the style of play, just in the way that
he does everything, and then they just don't get the wins.
It reminds me so much of the Chargers are just kind of always been snake bit in that way. I mean, like they could surprise us. They probably end up being my dark horse, just because I think that they've got like the tools and the coaching staff and the quarterback. It's just they've never proved it. Yep. They need to prove it. Moving on to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. They lost Trevon Moehrig, Harrison Bryant, Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane, Marcus Epps, Alexander Madison, Gardner Minshew, and Andre James. They gained Geno Smith, Alex Kappa, Jeremy Chin, Lonnie Johnson Jr., Raheem Mostert, Landon Roberts, Devin White, Jermaine Pratt, and Jamal Adams. All three of those are insane pickups, and supposedly Jamal Adams is going to play linebacker.
Yeah, I think it should have happened a long time ago.
Oh yeah, he's one of those. I mean, he wore number 7, right, at LSU. I think he, or was he LSU?
33.
33. I wasn't sure. You know how like number 7 is like the handed
number,
down. Yeah. I wasn't sure but he's insane. Max Crosby got re-signed to a 3-year insane contract, $106.5 million. Malcolm Kuntz is brought back for a year. Adam Butler re-signed for 3, and then they drafted Ashton Genty in the first round. And Jack Beck, the TCU wide receiver, in the second round. Obviously, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Colton's back. They have Eric Stokes, their cornerback, who I actually really like, and completely different coaching staff. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator, which is insane. And then they traded. Trading for Geno Smith was the big acquisition. I think this is a division winning team when it's not the AFC West.
Yeah, I think just in general, the AFC West is getting to a point where it rivals the AFC North.
Yeah,
like it's competitive like that. Yeah. You're going to get great football no matter who's playing.
Yeah.
And like you said, if they weren't in the AFC West, these guys would be getting into the playoffs. But you're in the division, so you got to find a way to make it work.
Yep.
I'm excited about a lot of the pieces that they brought. Of course, getting Pete Carroll in, Geno Smith, some of those guys. Bringing that experience into Vegas. Guys that are used to winning. So Pete Carroll, he's used to winning, brings the championship experience, and he's done it at USC. He's done it in Seattle. Is he able to do it in Las Vegas? That's ultimately what it comes down to. They brought in some great pieces, and I'm looking forward to seeing it because you saw glimpses of some of this young talent last year, and now you got some veterans to match along with it. Let's see what they can do in this division, man. Let's make a splash. You got 3 teams that we know are like that.
Yeah,
let's get forward moving.
Yeah, no, 100%. A Pete Carroll team loves to run too, similar to a Harbaugh team, and they get, the closest thing you can get to a beast mode reincarnated. A little bit different in runner, but similar, just run down your throat kind of guy. It's an interesting team. Like I said, if you put these guys in like the AFC South, they'll probably win that division.
Yeah,
or be close to it. At least to make the playoffs. But yeah, this division, AFC North, as far as the AFC divisions, are just death. There's going to be a team that's really good, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Watch it from home.
What rookies are you excited for in the AFC West?
Man, you said earlier, Trey Harris. Mm-hmm. Trey Harris is one that I'm excited for. Just with them losing Palmer to the Bills. Quentin Johnson hasn't been a guy that's been consistent. He has a lot of issues with drops and creating separation. So you need a guy that Justin Herbert can rely on outside of Ladd McConkey. So I think Trey Harris can be that guy. So he's the guy that I'm excited for, Ricky.
Yeah, I think mine is RJ Harvey.
Yep.
They brought Dobbins in. I thought Dobbins had a good, good-ish season last year. Obviously, a little injured as always. But RJ Harvey was a really fun running back. And I think in my head, he was one of the best running backs and put in one of the best situations in the draft. Mm-hmm. It'd probably be, the running back class for all rookies. The rookie running back class in the AFC West is kind of crazy because it's RJ Harvey, it's Omarion Hampton, and it's Ashton Genty. So it's like it's 3 rookie running backs that are more than likely going to be the bell cows for all their teams, just depending on.
That's crazy. You got the number 1 and number 2 back in the draft, the same division. That's wild.
So, and some argued Rajay Harvey was the third.
Yeah.
So it's, it just depends on. I mean, obviously Travion Henderson, we were both really high on him, so he'd probably be mine, and then Quinshawn and all that stuff. But vets that may surprise us.
Vets that may surprise us in this division. You got so much. You go first.
I'm going to go Kelsey. I think that Travis Kelsey looked like he lost a step last year, and I think it was because of lack of motivation. Not to say that he's not motivated, but, the silk sheets disease that Marvin Hagler always talks about, you make it to the Super Bowl 3 times in a row. That third time is not going to be as sweet, so you're not going to be as motivated to win. I think they were motivated to win, but I think, he's got a lot of other stuff going on in his life, being, basically married to Taylor Swift and got a podcast, and he's closer to retirement than the beginning of his career. I think that he, from all accounts, has worked really, really hard this offseason, and may surprise us maybe back in that 1,000-yard hybrid receiver tight end role, especially since Rice and Worthy are both very shifty. Take a little bit of attention off him. I think he's got a chance.
Yeah, the guy I'm going to pick, I wouldn't say surprise from a standpoint that I don't necessarily expect it, but I think that he's going to gel well with this young quarterback, Evan Ingram. I think he's going to be a great weapon for Bo Nix and this offense. Bo Nix has Cortland Sutton, and they're going to be a run-heavy team, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Evan Ingram in his offense to stretch the field. And I think he's going to help Bo Nix out early.
Something that may surprise us.
Oh, man. You see.
I think for me, it would be like Chargers having a Michigan Harbaugh kind of season where it's, defense and running, and, they just run it down their throats, and they score a bunch of points, and then in the playoffs they make a little bit of a run. Just because of how amazing their coaching is. I think that would probably be it, is if the Chargers made a run in the playoffs.
I would say if the Chiefs don't win the division, because you saw it last year. They were in all these close games that could have went anyway. Like, think back to the game with the Broncos, the field goal at the end. And I had money on the line for that one. I was like, I'm thinking this bet is over. They really should have lost that one. I got lucky.
Yep.
Thank you. But they were in so many of those games last year. If they find themselves in a situation like that this year, maybe they don't pull them off. So you can see a situation potentially where, man, maybe one of these other teams emerges this year just because burnout, maybe from the Kansas City Chiefs, and just certain things not coming together. But, it's when you're used to winning, you're always the target. So you're going to get everybody's best match. Upsets happen. This is the NFL. So that would surprise me if the Chiefs don't win this division.
No, 100%. Yeah. I think that the Chiefs, I mean, it's such a hard thing. I think, it's such a tough division. They're in such a weird spot. And it's also one of the situations where, I mean, you see it in the NBA a lot, where it's like, you see, not to perpetuate the narrative that the refs are for the Chiefs, but when you're winning a lot and you have star power, the refs skew towards you. If the Chiefs kind of see them in that downturn, where like we've seen LeBron almost in that downturn the last few times, or last few seasons, where he's not getting the calls anymore. He still gets calls, but he's not getting all the calls. If the Chiefs start seeing that teeter away from them instead of in their direction, I think we could definitely see.
Yeah, sure.
That would just that in its own right would make them just above 500.
And it's possible, man. People forget that the refs are humans, so they're gonna have their own biases.
Yeah.
Some may, I didn't see that call. I want to see Mahomes win. It's just turn the blind eye. Or if a ref doesn't like you, now he's calling everything on you. It happens.
No, 100%. Who's winning this division?
Chiefs are winning the division. I said the Chiefs are winning the division until it doesn't happen. I'm rolling with it.
I'm gonna surprise you and say the Broncos.
Okay.
I think the Broncos win this division. I think it's a situation where, like you said, it came down to so many close games for the Chiefs. I think this is the final downturn of when they start losing those. I think they're going to still make the playoffs. I think the Broncos will surge into the first place spot. It may not be by 6 games, 3 games, it may be by 1 game. But I think that Bo Nix and Sean Payton have something special. Cortland Sutton has been playing phenomenal. And I think it's another, similar to my argument of the dark horse last year, or in the AFC East, this is another injury luck. If the Broncos can stay healthy, if they can stay healthy, maintain consistency, I think that they can make a run.
I think the Broncos look like what the Jets would look like if they had offense.
100%.
So that's why they're very dangerous.
Quarterback.
I can see that happening for sure.
Yeah, and I just really liked how Bo Nix played last year. He really kept himself composed. He just reminds me so much of Drew Brees, and Drew Brees was, second year with Drew Brees, they won the Super Bowl. Sean Payton. So, dark horse. Who's the dark horse to win the division?
I got my dark horse is, of course, the Raiders. They got a new coach, Geno Smith, who has one of the greatest comeback stories in the league as of late. Everybody counted him out, and then he had that huge year last year. They got Pete Carroll, who's been known to turn things around. Won the championships at USC, then came into a Seattle situation where they're 5-11. And he took them to 2 Super Bowls. They won 1. They should have won 2. Just know that if you ever get into a situation where you're in the Super Bowl on the 1-yard line, hand Ashton Gentry the ball, and now you have another Super Bowl. But I think Pete Carroll coming in to Vegas can help this team, just have a winning culture around them. They haven't won a lot as of lately, well, historically. But I think he can get them to that next level, man.
No, 100%. I get that. Yeah, I think it would be, for me, it'd be the Raiders or probably the Chargers. But I've already used the Chargers for something that may surprise me. So probably I'll go with the Raiders as well. They just have a lot of additions, and Pete Carroll is historically at least a good coach. They've just had a string of bad coaches. But no, that does it for AFC East and West. Next week we'll do NFC North and South.
Okay.
And then the week after, NFC East and West. Now that we're getting to the NFC, it's going to be nice because, I've always been an AFC guy. But in other news, Jerry Jones needs to pay Micah Parsons.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy watching that back and forth.
I don't understand the situation. We were talking off screen, and he's had 4 consecutive 12-sack seasons in the beginning of his career. And that's the first time anyone's done it since Reggie White, who is the greatest sack artist of all time. And there's another statistic where he's as good as LT. So it's one of those, just pay him. He's 26 years old, and he's having numbers like that. He's never had a major injury. Pay him. Travis Hunter, Travis Hunter has done.
Yeah.
He's gone leaps and bounds in training camp. Everybody was worried about his route running and everything like that. But he, those videos that we're seeing out of camp.
Travis is cooking people in one-on-ones. You go back and look at things. Sometimes, even though Travis Hunter he's a baller, like you said, we humans. Yeah. Nerves come into play. Some guys can come into it and drills that they've done their whole entire life, maybe the first day or the second day of practice, they're just getting into their groove and they don't look like themselves.
Yeah.
Now he's looking like Travis Hunter.
No, 100%. And it's like athleticism will always be there. It's just like the knowledge that'll come. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those situations where he's already got a baseline knowledge. He's just learning. He's learning how to be an NFL player. Yeah. Once he learns how to be an NFL player, that athleticism is going to catch up, and it's going to be scary.
It's scary to see, even with the routes. You see, like, he's very athletic, but of course, when he was running routes, nerves or not, there were some technical issues.
Yeah.
Look how fast that he's learned that stuff and applied it. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's just another testament to bringing in an offensive coach like that. Mm-hmm. Teaching him that. I mean, it was at the end of the college football season last year that everybody thought he was going to be a better corner than wide receiver. I still think that he might be, but seeing the way that he's doing those receiver drills, it definitely is selling me on the fact that
I think he's a Hall of Fame player on both sides.
Okay.
Like, whichever position that he decided to play, if he decided to play both, I think he's that gifted.
Okay. I mean, I'm very excited to see if that can happen. I think he's a great talent no matter what. Desmond Watson,
yeah.
Putting on the PUP list. Like we were talking about this earlier. I understand where they're coming from. If you're in college, you just let the kid play because 4 years of him, 5 years of him. That's all you got. I kind of commend the Bucks for at least trying to help make his life and career long have some longevity. I understand how frustrating it is as a player, and I completely understand that, and especially the magnifying glass that's being put on him. Like that's not fun at all. I mean, but he's obviously working. Mm-hmm. He's dropped 30-40 pounds since he's been brought into the Bucks, and I would love to see him play, and I think he will play eventually. It's just, but once he gets there, he'll be fine. It's all about at this point, like, do you want to be a 2 to 3 year defensive tackle, or do you want to be a 15-year defensive tackle? Yeah, and figuring out how to maintain your body in a way that you can be a 15-year tackle. And I think it's Todd Bowles is one of those coaches that he cares so much about his players.
You see it.
Yeah. And he's just such a he does such a good job, and especially the defensive guys. So I understand how frustrating it is, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Desmond Watson's situation is interesting. I seen all the pushback online, like, why would the Bucks sign Desmond Watson? They knew this coming in. Why would they bother him? Like, well, what if nobody else signed him? You see he had a weight issue. Like, all right, if he's having a weight issue chasing his goal, imagine what he would have blown up to if he wasn't playing. I think this is a situation of the Bucks. Actually, you said Todd Bowles cares. Yeah. They care not only about him on the field. They feel like if they get this guy down to a certain weight, he can help their team. Yeah. But his life, if this guy doesn't get a hold of this, then who's to say what happens later down the line? So we want this guy to not only be a good football player, but we want him to live a long, healthy, prosperous life. 100%. And that's the biggest thing. It's bigger than ball. So shout out to Todd Bowles for doing this. Yeah, no. Any other team in this situation, you come in, you're overweight, you cut. Yeah. And they're like, oh, why would they bring him in?
And I think that's the big thing is that, like, people are wondering why would you bring in an athlete that is overweight and is going to have a hard time dropping that. And I mean, honestly, you can commend them. The fact that they're keeping him on the roster and they're helping him get through this, and they put him on the non-football injury list. I understand it helps them cap wise, but they're still maintaining this connection with this player and rehabbing him and helping him. And I mean, we also see, with Shiloh Sanders, coming in as an undrafted free agent and him getting a genuine opportunity and learning and doing this stuff. I think it's super refreshing to see a team actually care about these kids. Yeah. They're coming. There's so many examples. I mean, you've experienced it firsthand where you go into a building and they say they care about you and then they don't, and now you've got Desmond Watson, and Shiloh Sanders and all these other guys. I mean, like, the only other examples, what was it, Jimmy Horn, but that was a situation where it's like he failed a physical. Like, he blatantly failed a physical, and it's not his, I don't think it was his fault. He's obviously, I think he signs with the Panthers, I believe, right? So it's like he's still getting his opportunity. He's talented enough to. I think Desmond Watson's more than talented enough to. It's just kind of proves that, they see value in him, but they also value him as a human. And I think that's, as a football fan, where you see these guys get cut and you see these stories end. I mean, this may not have a good end at the end of the day, but I think it will, because he's just talented.
It's no different than we've all applied for a job, and I know I have applied for a job that my resume didn't say that I should get. Yeah. And I've worked with people that are like, well, your resume doesn't say that, we probably shouldn't hire you, but it's something about you. We believe in you. We want to give you a chance. You're not really qualified for this position, but we're going to work with you. Yeah. So that's the same situation with a Desmond Watson. It's like, yeah, we know you got all these issues, but we're going to work with you through them. And we're going to give you an opportunity to not only lose the weight to make this team, but become the best version of yourself. We don't only want you to come help this company become better. Even if you don't end up here, we want to put you in a position to thrive in life.
Yeah, no, and I want to applaud the Bucks and Todd Bowles and all that whole team. They're doing great stuff for the community in Tampa. We know firsthand since living here, but also with these rookies and these players. And I mean, Baker Mayfield's another example of someone who was just thrown away and now he's thriving. Speaking of the Bucks, Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah. It was unfortunately announced he's stepping down from his coaching position. But then it was announced right after. I mean, we're filming this on a Tuesday. right before we released the episode on Thursday. But he stepped down from his coaching position, scheduled a meeting with the Bucs, and it looks like he's signing there to be their backup quarterback. That could change. Kind of a similar feeling with the Bucs and this high school saga. It sucks that Teddy's got in trouble for giving his kids a better life. I'm glad that he's talented enough to land on his feet and go somewhere else. He'll always be talented enough to do that. You just wish that it would have worked out, that he's still coaching those kids.
Yeah, no, it was all that situation with Teddy Bridgewater at Miami Northwestern all comes down to ego. I think a few months prior he had called out the administration for certain things that they didn't do, and I think it was reported that the FHSAA was the one that suspended him, but then later on reports came out that it was actually Miami Northwestern that suspended him.
Yeah.
So there was a target on his back the moment that he called people out that were higher than him, but he was trying to make a change. And when you're standing for something, you're going to go against the big names behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He believes in these kids. He's fighting for something. He's been one of them. So it's bigger to him than just a name on the list that you're checking off and you're getting paid off of. And he was willing to sacrifice that. And it sucks that he's giving money out of his own pocket to help these kids. And these people like, man, listen, we're not going to have this guy challenging the system. So we're going to get rid of this guy that we know is making a huge impact on these kids, even if it hurts these kids in the long run and kills their life, their dreams, all these different things. That's the ego side of it is the lamest part to me. And a lot of these people in the schools, they shouldn't be around children in general because this is exposing it in real time that it's never been about helping these kids.
Yeah, it's just about their own agenda. Well, hopefully it sparks some change, but until then, Teddy Two Gloves back in the league.
Yeah,
I love Teddy. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. To just in Madden specifically, I love taking a bad team and picking up Teddy Two Gloves and just making them like a championship. Football guys.
Oh, I'm gonna go into. I got a few more I want to go into. Have you been seeing the Cam Newton stuff when you talked about Jalen Hurts?
Oh yeah.
So I don't really have an issue with Cam Newton's list because it's his personal opinion. I love seeing former guys that were great in this league and great in this game just have opinions, even if I don't always agree with him. He's a bold, opinionated guy and hilarious too. But you've seen a lot of him catch a lot of flack on the media for his opinions, and a lot of people said that Cam Newton is hating on Jalen Hurts. And I don't like this narrative that just because you're not co-signing everything somebody does that you're a hater. Like, we live in this generation where meat riding has become fashionable. Yeah. So if you're not meat riding and co-signing everything that someone is doing, then all of a sudden you're a hater. Yeah. Like, if I go over there right now and I fall in a pile of mud or poop or something like that, and you get up, you're like, oh, I'm like, man, can I look good? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, you look great. No, bro, like it's doodle all on the back of your leg, man. What are you doing? But because you say that to me, oh, you hating on my swag. And that's the thing, like, and we got to stop, like, I'm not meat riding anybody. Like, we did it a few months ago. I talked about the Shadur situation, Deion Sanders, and I've also been the same person on this platform that sings their praises. We're gonna be fair, and I feel like that's what Cam Newton is doing. He likes people, but he's gonna be fair and state his opinion. But let's not forget, I see a lot of people online attacking Cam Newton. Let's not forget, he took an Auburn team that had nobody playing in the NFL to the National Championship and won it. And let's not forget that Panthers team. Yeah, they had Luke Kuechly, but a lot of the guys on that offensive side of the ball weren't like big name guys, and he took them to the Super Bowl. So let's not act like he wasn't a baller. Salute to him and shout out to him for standing up on his principles and not caving. I respect it.
Yeah, Cam Newton's an interesting guy because, like you said, he had one of the best offenses, and none of those players. I mean, it was like Devin Funches and Ted Ginn and Jonathan Stewart and Greg Olsen, who's elite. But I think the craziest thing coming out of this too is the Johnny Manziel. You see, he's boxing. He's gonna box Gilly the Kid.
Johnny Manziel? Yeah, they go box. When did this start?
Like last week, whenever this stuff was happening, because a lot of it came out when Cam Newton was on Johnny Manziel's podcast, and so Gilly the Kid, who's a big, $1 million worth of game, big Philly guy, he was like yelling about Cam Newton, and then Johnny Manziel goes and starts fighting for Cam Newton, being like, "Hey man, like he's just voicing his opinion, all this stuff," and then they get.
I think Gilly used to boss though.
Yeah,
Philly guys, that's what they do.
Yeah, but I mean, Johnny Manziel, he's gonna think he can do anything.
He better have some training because I saw Philly, a guy that understands boxing. I know when of course you don't necessarily know until a guy gets into the ring.
Oh yeah,
but if a guy's been in the gym or not. So it's like, all right, Johnny Manziel, you better be on point.
You just looking at Gilly walk, you can tell that he boxed.
Yeah,
he's light on his feet.
I want to get into the last two things: the Shannon Sharp, I tripped to FSU, and then my weight loss journey.
Okay,
but you've seen it online with the Shannon Sharp situation, with the girl he was dealing with, and then you saw DeAndre Ayton. They both had situations. You see it for the longest. Athletes getting into little financial bonds with women. I'm a huge fan of Shannon Sharp, one of the greatest players of all time. I love the work that he's doing, and it's just a situation where you see these guys, they get all this success, and we get money, and we go after all the women that would have never wanted us when we were broke. And if we went broke tomorrow, they wouldn't answer our phone calls. And I understand that not everybody's going to be a person that wants to settle down, but at least go after women that are actually interested in you, because 95% of the other women are only coming to take everything that you got, and they don't care about you after that. So I would put yourself in a situation where you either got them signing some paperwork or whatever the case may be. But for a lot of these dudes, man, go after women there's a woman that they pass up every day that's just as bad as the Instagram model that they pass up, but she actually like you. Like if you went broke tomorrow, she would be, "Hey, how you doing?" checking up on you, but you pass her up for the Instagram model that only wants you to go buy her a Louis Vuitton purse, all these different things, and then once you don't have anything, she's gonna throw you to the wolves. But that's really all I gotta say. Say on it. It's just the example. Hope Shannon Sharp, he's gonna continue to thrive from the situation. DeAndre Ayton, I hope that they continue to learn from these lessons, and just not them, the rest of the athletes, because this has been happening well before them. It's going to continue to happen after. So you just got to protect yourself and understand that you're a huge business and people are trying to steal your assets. But then, of course, with the Jimbo episode coming up, I was just thinking about how big of a culture shock it was when we were coming up to. I remember being at Florida State, and now you got all these guys in college. They're getting paid. At Florida State, it was a culture shock. We're seeing all these guys. They're pulling up in these foreign cars. I mean, you saw BMWs, Mercedes. These guys are in scats, all these things. And I remember being at Florida State my freshman year. We all were walking. You got these highly recruited guys walking. Like even Jalen Ramsey, one of the top cornerbacks, defensive backs in the NFL. He even talked about how he would go hungry some nights, and people thought that he was lying. But I remember a situation where Jalen was walking one day. He hadn't eaten that day. We're all at the apartment complex playing, I think, college football, and we had the doors open. Jalen walks past one day. He sees we have pizza and everything set up like Hungry Howie's. He walks in like, "Yo, man, y'all playing the game? I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's up?" Immediately in my mind, I already know, he wants some pizza. Yeah. So he walks in, like, "Man, y'all got some pizza?" I was like, "Yeah, bro, grab me some." So Jalen grabbed the pizza, immediately gets up, and then he's about to walk out the door. I'm thinking in his mind, he's registering like, "Oh, man, I don't want to be green, take their food, and then just leave." But he's like, "Yeah, man, y'all know I want it next, man. Let me get next on the game. Let me know when y'all done." In my mind, I'm like, "Bro, you know you don't want to play the game. You just hungry, but it's cool, eat your food." But that's where we were at that point, man. There wasn't a lot of money coming in. Yeah. So to see these guys in all these foreign cars, you see videos and photos of DJ Lagway with Lamborghini in Orlando. It's just a completely different culture now.
Yeah, meanwhile, when back in the day when Eric Dixon took a picture with a Corvette, he got SMU banned from college football
that's crazy.
For years. It was definitely interesting. I mean, you always hear about the NIL, but yeah, when we pulled up and there was literally Hellcats and stuff, I was like, what is going on? That was a crazy moment of Tally.
The last thing I want to talk to before we get out of here is, now you've seen I've started to go live broadcasting my weight loss journey. Now I'm on this journey. We're in August 5th?
Yeah.
I'm on this journey now to lose 100 pounds in 4 months, and I did my first live the other day, just broadcasting the journey. because I've lost 62 pounds in 2 months before. I've lost 50 pounds in 2 months before, and I know a lot of people, they see a lot of things on social media, and you don't know what to believe because so many people are lying to you on social media. But I've done it in real time. And I just wanted to broadcast my journey because ultimately I gained a lot of weight back after the death of my father. Like, I thought I was getting through it. Yeah. But then every time I would look, I'm like, dang, I look bigger in this picture. So I was just eating, like, not realizing that was my way of kind of coping. So now I'm on this journey to lose 100 pounds in 4 months and get back to the healthiest version of myself. And I'm broadcasting it in real time for people that are just trying to get their lives on track. Yeah. And I'm embracing it, man. You got the people, oh, man, there's no way that he's going to lose this weight. There's no way he's lying. It's not possible. But you got to understand, just because you can't do it, don't mean that somebody else can't do it. Yeah. Right? And so I'm excited about this journey.
No, it's cool seeing you do that. Yeah, I think you said, I mean, you may change frequency, but the goal is to do at least once a week talking about it. So that'll be fun. Make sure to look out for those lives. But I think that leads us to football, guys.
Yep.
I'll go first. This one's a weird one because I forgot he played for the Patriots. Well, he didn't really play. He was like end of your career practice squad guy. But someone was saying they're excited for this undrafted receiver, and it was just pictures of this guy, and I was like, that doesn't look like the person, and it was just a joke because it was just another not undrafted, but like white receiver. Eric Decker.
Oh, yeah.
Wide receiver, 3rd round pick out of Minnesota, 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons, 2 with the Broncos, 1 with the Jets. He was just one of those dudes. He reminded me so much of like Cooper Kupp before Cooper Kupp, or those guys where it's like very shifty. I think he was like 6'2", 6'3", so he's a little taller than you'd expect. But he's a really fun dude to watch play, especially in those Broncos seasons where, you know, they had so many good teams. When Kubiak was the head coach and all that, and then moving to the Jets, and obviously having, you know, some trouble but doing decent. But he's an example of, you know, one of those receivers that gets drafted in the third, fourth, fifth round and just makes a little niche for himself. Plays for like 8-10 years, like a Jordy Nelson, like all those guys.
Yeah.
Just very fun, very good production. But yeah, no, that's my guy.
My guy, my football guy is Stevie Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Johnson was drafted in the 7th round by the Buffalo Bills in 2008. And, you know, most seventh round guys, especially at receiver, aren't expected to come in and do much. But I remember a run with Stevie Johnson where he was cooking every single one of your favorite DBs. You talk about a guy having releases off the line, footwork, all these different type of things. Man, Stevie Johnson was cold with it. And he was on the run. He ended up getting paid a whole bunch of money off of it. But I just look back to all these highlights of him cooking the guys like Darrell Reeves, Richard Sherman, and they can't do anything with him. And coming from being a 7th round pick, that's huge, being able to get paid. And he was a guy that always delivered. And, of course, he ended up getting injured a lot at the latter end of his career. But during his time in Buffalo, that man was a problem, Stevie Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching, listening, however you're enjoying this episode. Next week's episode, Laquan Ellis, track and field athlete. He was a very nice kid. Excited to see where he go, what's going on with him. I believe he signed with USF. We don't talk about it in the episode because it was right before. But he was a very, very he had some really cool knowledge, especially about Bahamas and where he's from. But I want to thank our sponsors before. Our presenting sponsor, Hal Buchanan Strong. Thank you so much. Stein Financial, Concord Coffee, and Indie Atlantic Films. Thank you everyone for paying attention and watching. You are what makes this possible. We're excited to keep bringing more very fun episodes to you.